Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Now, at this point, I'd normally go to shouting out patrons. However, this is actually going to be a YouTube members-only special edition because I'm going to actually start the show before I've actually done anything in terms of the setup. I'm intending to do a live stream that is also members-only today, which is something I've not done before. But with that, I'm going to transition to what is essentially a completely empty black screen. So, although that might seem weird, I'm going to transition across to my TV so you can see precisely what I actually do when I'm actually setting these shows up. Oh, great. Got the top of my head. Let's change that for you. As you can see, nothing's particularly set up. Let's see if I can get myself in frame a bit better. There we go. Okay. So, what we've started off on this screen is going to be my bare minimum. So it's taken me about 10 minutes to get set up to this particular stage, which is to say I've restarted my computer, changed my sound card input, so it's changed to voice meter banana as the overriding input for everything. And then I've, as I say, restarted, loaded up OBS and loaded up banana only. So these are the bare minimum things I can do to just start recording. And in this instance, once I've got that recording going, which I now have, and done an intro and not shouted out any patrons, I'm going to show you basically what I do to actually get a Flat Earth Debate set up, because it takes quite a considerable amount of time. And whether or not anybody's appreciative of this, I don't care, because it's my show and it's a special edition. And what else am I going to talk about other than the production of the show itself? So me probably massive in frame, looking slightly weird, very, very foreheady. In fact, because I can't be bothered to reposition this camera at this stage, I'm just going to go to TV so I don't have to distract myself with how I'm looking, vain though I am. So let's transition to TV. Where is that TV screen? There it is. Okay, right, I can sit comfortably. Brilliant stuff. Okay, so as I said before, this is what I've already got set up because it's the bare minimum that I can actually do. So from this point, I've actually got to first and foremost turn on my projector, which is a 4K Optoma monitor. And the reason I mention that is because it means two things. One is that I can actually fit all of what I do onto one space, one screen. And prior to this particular unit, I had one that was 1080p, and I literally couldn't fit. I hadn't got enough real estate in pixels to fit everything I use onto that particular display. The other reason I'm doing this particular stream as I am now is because I've done God knows how many, probably 20 to 30 different test streams, just trying to minimize the amount of distortion that I get. And basically, on this particular meter, I think I've got it pegged in terms of how I can set my show up so it sounds nice, and I'm not overloading the mic, I'm not distorting at a normal level, and if I talk quietly like I am now, it won't suddenly drop in such a massive amount of volume that I'm inaudible above somebody who's also talking at a reasonable level but heavily limited, which is what this is here for my guests. Again, I mention this because G+, I've got no control over the levels for each of the individual guests, which is very frustrating. So there's a constant battle throughout every show for my main panel in terms of keeping them at a reasonable level and balancing them up. The same should go for me, but typically I'll listen after the fact because it's very distracting to have yourself in headphones. So that's something I don't typically do because I don't like it. I won't actually hear how I'm sounding other than when I do these tests. I've released a few Patreon-only videos. Big shout-out to all of my Patreons, although I didn't shout you out by name today, because you all get to see this sort of boring behind-the-scenes stuff. Typically, it's where I publish it. I don't normally publish any of this to members, but regardless, I'm going to today. So you're going to get to see some of this stuff in action and what I get set up, what's kicking on my screens as I do the show, all that very fascinating stuff that is all part and parcel of a behind-the-scenes presentation. So what I've got here is my, I think it's called VLC, and all I do in this is load some background video. It's a throwback to having to have something on screen so that I could hide the guests in case they joined and played something they shouldn't. I don't need to mention what. Anybody who's a long-standing watcher of the show will know precisely what I'm talking about. I'm going to move this out of the way for now and probably transition to the other screen so that you can see what I do over there, as all we're going to start getting here is video feedback. let's go to projector. So this is the entirety of my projector, as you can probably see. And over here is my Skype feed, which I do have as a line, but typically don't use for a guest unless somebody really specifically needs to get in touch with me on an individual basis while I've got a show running and they're going to be part of the show. Doesn't often happen, but it's useful to have a spare line, so that is Skype. I also use it for internal communication, as you've often seen 10th Man putting presentations up. That's where they'll come from. So I'll get the slides, he'll put them into that particular feed on Master B. You can see at the top of the list there. And yeah, that's basically it. In this case, although I will show the stream key for this particular Hangout in this instance, this is going to go out after this show's long finished, so it doesn't matter in the slightest. So there we go. I grab that and then I present what I've got already, which is a window, the one I just showed you, which is my background for the show. So this is what you see scrolling around, and I have to actually lock it onto my screen, which takes a few clicks here and there. But other than that, that's how I get me into the frame. I've still got my studio lights on. I can't see a thing. When I'm all organised, obviously, I've got that in my hand after I do my intro, so I can turn it off, shout out you Patreons without being blinded. But there we go, that's now off. And why am I not seeing what I expect to see here? There we go, ignore. There we go. So on here, I have to line this all up beautifully, and I have to do that on a different screen. But before I do, I'm going to load up my, what have we got here? This is my meat. So let's remove that. What's this? My Patreon list. Okay, so that goes onto the other screen. So let's transition back over here so you can see what I'm doing. Back on the TV screen. So I've got my Patreon manager on here, which is the list that I read out, which I've set to a very particular size, if I can get it to do it. Thereabouts. That'll do. That's good enough. I also have the live stream that I'm about to schedule. So in here, I have to get rid of this every single time and this, and then go to actually schedule a stream. Exciting stuff. I'm sure you'll all agree. This is all fairly basic stuff. I always use the old thumbnail from the one from the previous show. Oh, or did I? Schedule stream, reuse settings. Yes, that's what I do. And that means I can just change the number. So this is going to be the 1499 shows so far. Wow, that's a lot of shows. Anywho, we then come down here and say, yes, I absolutely do want to... Oh, no, it's not on this screen yet. Yes, I do want to monetize. There we go. So give me ads, all of them. It's been a tough month. Smash the PayPal link. And who do I want this to go out to? This is the reason I've got this on screen, isn't it? Because I want this to go to members. So this is going to be a members-only live stream. And obviously I don't need slow mode for a members-only live stream. Live chat, live replay. Yep. Customization. Add a trailer. Why not? People may not be aware that you can do this. You can actually add a trailer to your live stream if it's less than 3 minutes long. And then you schedule what time you actually want the show to go out. For me, that's 2 o'clock UK time. Done. And then it gives me this screen. Once it's finished, let's just minimize this because it's a bit boring as it's doing its loady loads. And go back to the projector, where I have to gather up the exact same screen again, which is a duplicate because I need to get the live chat from it. So I now have to go through the exact same process of dismissing this and opening it up with a chat once it tells me I'm on the wrong stream key, which it will give me a warning for. I'll tell it I want to swap to my current stream key. All very, very exciting. But the main thing I need from it is this, the chat. So when you see the chat, I have a manually controlled bog standard chat. It's not going through OBS with any sort of swanky feeds. It just sits up here somewhere. And if I get a super chat, I'll just bring it up and pops up onto screen. So that I've got manual control over all of the windows and I can do things in a pinch. I have it set up so that I am just screen capturing my entire projector and then taking one corner, one 1080p corner from it, which is what you're seeing being set up as we speak here. And I have the live monitor, which is this, so I can see out the corner of my eye that the live stream isn't going badly wrong when I start doing my intro. And look for when I point down. That's actually one of my cues. So out the corner of my eye, I'm waiting to see me point down to, I don't know, get £50 off your energy bill or whatever it is I'm saying when I point down. I forget without going through the motions. But nevertheless, that when that happens, I'm looking because it flashes up in this little window. So I know that the show's running live without me having to look off camera. Because obviously I'm producing it and being on camera, so I don't want to look off screen. Occasionally I'll glance at something if something distracts me. So that's that. What else do I bring up? My Discord tab. So let's just actually click on this so I can bring up Discord. Something I'm not a fan of. I don't use it other than for the show. So this is literally all I do with it each day. Minimize it to the point where I can only see guest participants, extend it so I can see them all, and then join it. So I'm, where are we? Live stream, Nathan Oakley, here we go. So nobody in there at the moment, there's no point in joining, so I won't. And what I will do, though, is go to, excuse me, how I actually set the show up. So this is the general appearance of the show. So I've got various different things that I'll line up to make it fit onto a 1080p section of the 4K monitor. And that is to say I've got the bottom of this word people just cutting off like so. And then I drag this part across until it is lined up with the chat, which I haven't done yet. So I'll do that next, which is to say I get me at the bottom left-hand corner, line it up. It should say members only, right? Huh. Doesn't say anything about this being members only chat. Maybe I need to have a look at that. So these are the kind of things that come up that you don't know about until you have a look and then go, number one, why have I still got my title with yesterday's geometric limit? Let's get rid of that. But why is it not members only? Why isn't that appearing? Normally in the chat feed, it'll say, you can watch this, but you've got to be a member. That's what I'd hope it would say. Public category. No, I don't want it public, do I? I want it to go members only. Ability public. No. Members only. All channel members, yeah. For schnizzle. Okay, save. Come on, don't mess me around. Members. Post to members. Why not? Let's do exactly that. So, members only. Live. Go. Because when you all get here and realise that I'm doing it behind the scenes, you're just going to be so excited and pleased that I sent you this post. Not that I've gone live for the members yet. Although I will do that in a minute once I've got some of these things all laid out nicely. So let's do precisely that. Because it's members only, there's hardly anybody going to be, rushing to see this when there's maybe, I don't know, 100, a couple of hundred. I haven't counted for a while how many members I've actually got. Should really do that. But it's not going to suddenly fill up this chat. This isn't going to start, going a mile a minute because, yeah, at least they'll be lined up knowing that there's going to be a live members only show. So that's why that's been done. Where am I? What am I babbling about? Why am I babbling about it? So that's that. That's set up now for the show. This is how the show would look. Although normally by the time I've actually done my intro, somebody's joined, normally Neil, and I just raise the mic on him and the conversation starts there. I then go and get a cup of coffee because I've been sat doing this. So let's minimize this, get it out of the way. I also run some software that is called Cam. Some of you may be familiar with Cam. Hopefully it will actually load 50-50 whether or not this piece of software works. Absolutely nothing. It's so slow. One of those things. I do want it though, so this might take me a little bit of time if I have to distract myself a shitload to get this Cam working. Nothing. That's frustrating. Okay, well, I'll tell you what Cam is. Most people who are PC literate will be familiar with this piece of software. It's just a monitoring software that monitors... it's kicked into action. Monitors my PC temps, the clock speed of the PC's CPU and GPU individually, fan speeds for them, things like that. And it's very useful because if there's something awry, Sometimes you restart the computer and don't realise that the CPU fan isn't actually increasing in speed as the computer gets hotter. There it is. Let's go back to the PJ. Where's my webcam button? There it is. PJ. So down here, this is just literally fan speed for the CPU, clock speed. Load isn't that important, but this is temperature, GPU the same, gives me the fan speed, etc., etc. So if you can see that, that's another piece of software that's running in the background. Up here, let's just do that now because that's where it should be, or where it should live while it's going to be living there. I'll show you it because it's part of my setup. So over here, I have my voice meter banana, and that's set up so I can monitor all the different lines that are coming in, be it the PC line, which might have music or a video from YouTube, Discord line, Skype line, G+ line, and my mic line. So that's all of those. Good stuff. What else can I show you before I start and do an intro for the members only people? Sure there's something I've missed. There's typically something I've missed. I've got my OBS set up. Got my Patreons ready to shout out. Set as members only. Let's check if it will actually start the stream when I press the go button, rather than me having to fiddle around and faff. Auto start, auto stop, enable DVR. Yes, about the latency, low latency. Good, good, good. That's what I want. I think I'm ready to rock and roll, you know. This is usually about the point that I'll, what would I do? I'd go to my, I've just got to kick into gear, right? Pretend that I'm not talking to an audience and actually just do my thing. And then I'll do it automatically on autopilot. Get comfy. Oh, should I show you this part? What I'd normally do. Should I? Yeah, let's do it. Let's stick my camera on. So I'd normally go, okay, right, I've got to get myself lined up. Get myself looking presentable. That's what I'd normally do. Get myself in the frame so I'm roughly central, which is difficult to do on an angle with these hexagons behind me because they go all skewy as soon as I lean back, which is about there-ish. Once I've got me set, I've got wrinkles out of my shirt. This is my studio lights, by the way, so I can actually read the screens once I've stopped looking at the camera, and out of the corner of my eye I can just see that the live stream's going to start when I've lined myself up and got myself on camera, done a quick test of my voice, see if I clip, because I've accidentally knocked something, like a line in the voice meter banana. So check, check, check. That's what I do, you know. I'm showing you what I do. If that's blasting your ears out, what can I do? I want to check that I don't clip. Anyway, let's go to the Flat Earth Debate photo, which is what I line up for my intro. And what else do I need to do? Press the live button, right, Nathan? Indeed. Welcome, Flat Earth Debate, live and for members only. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. No need to suggest that you hit the members join button, as this is specifically for members, although if you are watching this after the fact and you are not a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, then smash the join button. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Before we get started on this live stream, which is kind of impromptu because I've done a pre-show setup, I don't know what you call it, behind the scenes, And for this particular live stream, I'm going to carry on with that theme and actually show what goes on to get a live flat Earth debate going. Now, because of the fumbling and stumbling, I've put this out initially to members only in case it does go drastically wrong. I'll have a bit more of a sympathetic audience. But in the meantime, I'm going to actually transition across to what is a blank screen because no one's had an invite to join, and show you how this process actually takes place. So if you've been watching this on the re-up, or whatever you'd call it, the premiering stream, or the members-only bit that this has been attached to as an Uncut and After show, or whatever I'll label it, then you'll know up until now that I've set this up with only OBS and Banana, the bare minimum to actually start making a recording, and then taking you through the process of how this all works. And for members only, that's kind of my bag. You know, doing Patreon-only videos that show behind the scenes, my woes, my worries, the things that break, how I get them fixed, the stupid amount of cost that goes into actually running this show, which I don't typically talk about. But again, if you're watching this as a member of the public, this is kind of you getting to see behind the scenes, not as a Patreon, but as a kind of quasi-member if this gets released. So what I'd do once I'd got my Uncut and After show actually set up is I'd start sending out invites to the people who are in my typical panel, and that's by way of Skype. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to send out my G+ invitation to those people. Hopefully I'll get a few guests joining reasonably quickly, as otherwise I've got to keep filling this dead air with my members. Not that there's going to be any particular issue with me babbling on indefinitely about the flat Earth debate and how it functions, because that is pretty much what I do. So I could talk about it all day, especially with people who are offering a sympathetic ear because you're my member. The other thing I'd do is join the live stream for Discord, but at this stage there's one dude in there who I don't know, so I'm not going to do that yet because it's a bit unreasonable to lean on somebody I've never spoken to before, and it'll probably cause uncomfortable silences. Better to actually just jibber jabber to myself. Although I suppose I could do the jibber jabber to myself while I've got a participant in there, but we'll see how we get on. Let's bring up the actual meet page so we can see our guests as and when they join. Where is it? Can't find it. There we go. You all admit, and worry about why I can't hear them, because there is no big bong. I haven't turned my preamp on. Hold on, gentlemen. Hold your horses. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you.
Woohoo! That means that whilst live, which we are, I've got a working, functioning show, because technically what I'd normally do is get you guys joining and then go live, right? Well, now we're live, just so you know. Well,
You just keep getting better and better every day.
Indeed. I'm going to do what I'd normally do, though, Neil. So what's currently happening is this stream has started as a members-only live stream, and that means that there's a limited audience, but there are potentially people listening right now. There is absolutely no chance I can edit anything out. Not that I ever have, other than to make the videos. But it means that I'm going to bugger off a coffee while you guys chit-chat. I'm going to join the live stream for Discord as well, because there's a couple of people in there now.
So keep it clean and keep it entertaining.
Keep it clean. Yeah, you've got it. I don't need to say these things. When we are in the rare occasion that I'm not recording, and in this particular scenario, I would say those sorts of things, but I'm sure you can read between the lines, right, Neil?
Correct.
Excellent.
How's everybody doing?
I don't know. We've got a couple of people in Discord, Harp and Puckinral. I can't say that. Puckiral.
Morning.
Hey, Harp. How's it going?
Harp.
How's it going?
It's gone.
It's gone. As you can tell, I've got to get this conversation going, otherwise I won't get coffee, and then I'll be annoyed.
Go get coffee. How you doing, Sean? Good to see you.
We haven't heard from 10th yet.
I got something.
Oh, it's John. Sorry, I thought you were 10th. Yeah, my bad.
Well, it's somebody said the horizon was an optical effect the other day, but I don't think I agree with that.
Okay. I'll listen from the kitchen. If I ask you to repeat yourself, I apologize in advance.
Well,
Speak to me, John.
well, it's you have a radar horizon as well. There's artificial horizons. The horizon seems to be an effect in the measuring device, but not necessarily optical. So it wouldn't make sense. It can't be defined as an optical effect because it exists in other things.
A little more.
Well, that's it. It's not an optical effect. It's just, you know, it exists in the measuring device. That's the only way I can think to describe it, because radar is not optical. But there's still a horizon for radar.
Interesting.
Right. Like, so I was wondering if it could be described as well, it seems to be supernatural because it's above nature is the only
That's
way
what
I can
I
think.
listen. That's what I always felt, because what the heck is the horizon?
Right. It's observer. Well, it's measurement dependent, I guess. You know, like, for it to exist, there has to be something to measure with.
All right, John, hear me out on this. Say there was no contrast and everything was the same color. Would we see a horizon?
If everything was the same color,
Yeah, like if it just blended, because like if you're looking in the ocean, you got the sky and the sea, correct? Or if it's the land, you got the sky and the land. What if they were the same color?
well, see that then you'd still have a radar horizon.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because I always felt like it was a supernatural thing. Like nobody knows why we see a horizon.
Right. Yeah, you can describe it with math, but it's like it only exists in the measuring device. It's like it's I don't know. You can't describe it with what is, and just describe it with what it's not.
Good morning.
Morning, Ted. What's your thoughts on this?
I had a boat with a radar system on it, and when I was going to Catalina Island, if I had it set on the furthest setting, say 24 miles, Catalina would pop in pretty much right after I left the dock, because it's only 6 miles or so. Then if you set the radar for 4 mile range, you wouldn't even see Catalina because it's only showing you 4 miles out. Now, what's the capability of the radar? Well, if it's only a 24-mile radar, it's not going to show you something 92 miles out, is it?
Right. It has a horizon,
Correct.
so it can't be an optical effect. What I mean.
Well, I don't know what that. I was just talking about radar. Optical effects happen all the time. Obviously, I can't see forever, so
No, you're not getting what I'm saying. To
I
describe
don't. I just jumped in.
to describe the horizon as an optical effect is wrong because radar has a horizon.
Describe the horizon as an optical. Well, if you finish that sentence, it might make more sense.
Because a radar has a horizon and it's not optical.
No, I'm not saying that sentence. I'm saying the other one. Say the first one again.
To describe the horizon as an optical effect is wrong.
But no, I would say to describe the sky meeting or touching the horizon, like the cloud is 10,000 feet above my head, but when I look out, it looks like that's 10,000-foot cloud. Way out there might be even more, but let's just say it's still same 10,000 feet high. Well, I know it's not touching the water. So it is optical.
In your eye, it is,
That's what I'm saying.
but there's other horizons.
What other horizons?
The radar horizon 10th, we just talked about that.
Well, I just came in, so yeah, that's an instrument's horizon. It's not my eyes.
Right. So it's not you can't just describe it as an optical effect.
I know, but we're getting so detailed. As every time you mention the horizon, I've got to say it's radars or my eyes now.
No, I'm saying that it would be better described as something that exists within the measuring device.
Yeah, I agree with that. My eye says it's there, and the instrument says it's only 24 miles out because that's all the instrument is capable of.
Right. And your eye is the same as the type of measuring device. It's just a natural one that you
Yeah,
measure.
I think we're saying the same thing. I don't disagree with the limitations of the eye.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is Brian. I watched a show where y'all discussed it as an optical effect, and I don't think that would be.
Well, in context, you can't say it if you're going to say, in context, you could say it's an optical effect because you're describing your eye's limitation measuring device.
Yeah, John, I don't agree with that because we're seeing it. It is optical.
I think we're getting too detailed for our own good.
No, what I'm saying is that all measuring devices that measure any kind of relationship will have a horizon.
Okay, a 12-inch ruler could only measure 12 inches unless I keep flipping it on itself. So its limitation is 12 inches because the stick ruler is only 12 inches long. Doesn't mean I can't go find a stick ruler that's a yard long.
Well, what I'm saying is the horizon can't really be defined as what it is. It's a lack of information.
Correct.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with any of this.
Correct, but that was what I was waiting to hear. So the lack of information, i.e. the point of interference or diffraction limit, would be part of what would form your horizon. So it's a list of things, one of which is a lack of information, you're right. But it's not the only thing.
No, I wouldn't say that either. It's a very complicated thing, but to describe it as solely an optical effect when it exists in other measuring devices I think, would be wrong too.
But it's not the same horizon in the same sense that the other measuring devices are using a human eye.
Well, it's the same horizon you see is not the same horizon I see, so that wouldn't be acceptable to describe it that way then either.
So it's optical. You have better vision.
Incorrect.
I don't know what we're talking about here.
I say it's supernatural. And I say, what if it all blended in? You wouldn't see any horizon. The only reason you see a horizon is because the sky is one color and the ground is another color.
You guys are going way too deep on this subject. What is the horizon in the context in our debate?
I don't know. What is
What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know what it is.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I can't go.
The horizon
Well, you know what
is
it
the
is.
apparent place where the sky meets the earth.
Thank you.
Wow.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's apparent, but you don't know what it is.
Yes,
Who
it's
cares?
apparent.
Describe it.
Who cares?
When you
That's not part of our debate.
it's contacting it. When you say know what it is, it's like almost like you're inviting physicality after that. Know what it is physically? Well, it isn't.
That's right. You know what it isn't, but you don't know what it is.
Right. And I can describe it. And in many ways, part of the life is short, ranty flat earth, red pill philosophy and myself, when we discussed the diffraction limit and optics and looking at things in the distance, 70% of it was basically about the horizon. But when it's 5-6 hours long, you can imagine the amount of detail that's going into describing what's happening in terms of how you've got a foreshortening effect with the ground in the foreground having a wider angle to it than the angle to the stuff in the distance, that opening up as you raise an elevation, the aperture of the eye or camera, as John was discussing earlier. It's the device. Can't say it's down to you. You can't say it's an individual thing, because you can take a picture and no eyeballs needed. So it's down to the device in terms of where the diffraction limit will form that interference pattern that you can call the horizon, but has got other things that are definitely going to be factored in.
Well, it's interesting too, because we know refraction is real, but it doesn't change the angular relationship to the horizon. The distance to the horizon may change, but that angular relationship remains consistent. That's why globers are always preaching about their dip angle, you know?
Right. Yeah, dip angle, because they've got it asserted as physical. So the dip angle to the physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Right? Well, no. It's not a physical place. It's not Earth curve. It would be if it was a sphere edge. We'd definitely see it. It'd definitely block our view. It doesn't. It's beyond those limits. Definitely not physical. But that's their paradigm, not ours.
When you're inside,
I think John's point is
would
a
you see it
danger
if
of...
it blended in, though?
Say again?
Would you see it if it blended in?
What you see is blended in. Okay, thanks. There's a danger that we can do the same thing. Oh, God.
I was just saying, if the ground and the sky were the same color, would you see a horizon?
I would say yes, because you'd have one potentially causing an interference pattern with the other, and that would create a line, regardless of it all being the same exact colour. I would say yes. But anyway, I think John's point is that there's a danger of us doing the same thing without there being a need to. There's no requirement for us to define how or why when it comes to the horizon. Now, the definition of what it is won't change. It is, by definition, the arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground. But that's not physical, and if we assert that it is optical, there's a danger in that too. And when we do, why are we doing it? What are we using the horizon to make an assertion about? We're not. We're debunking their claim that it's physical, so just stick to that rather than making bold claims about stuff that you don't really understand. And in this case, Neil's admitting it, and I will admit it too. I don't really understand what the horizon is. I've got a good idea how it's formed, and that's after extensive research and extensively publishing that research to an audience. Like I say, just the condensed version was 6 hours.
Yeah, I noticed in that video Sleeping Warrior posted, that seemed to be the sticking point for the guy that was debunking the sextant or whatever, was a physical measurement, or it was an extrinsic measurement to a physical horizon that they claim in the Black Swan is intrinsic, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nathan,
Black Swan, right, precisely. Go ahead, Tent.
four slides, Master B.
Oakley.
Oakley Dokley.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get them up.
I know, but your last name, Oakley Dokley.
It is.
I know.
Ned Flanders.
It's too early. Come on.
Ned Flanders says it. Oakley Dokley.
I know. I'm just saying, repeating it sounds good.
Okay, you're up.
All right. Go. It came in reverse order, but go where it says chapter 20. Site reduction.
Got it.
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
What is this? I'm going to highlight a segment of this. So go to the next one. The next one will show you how to do your line of position to the GP in that illustration. Where is this coming from? Next slide. This is the American Practical Navigator by Nathaniel Baldich. Must have for all mariners. And then the last one is the segmented part of the first page. Celestial navigation involves determining a circular line of position based on an observer's distance from a celestial body's geographic position. Should the observer determine both bodies, keyword both, GP and his distance from the GP, he would have enough information to plot a line of position. He would be somewhere on a circle whose center was the GP and whose radius equaled his distance from that GP. that circle from all points on which the body measured altitude would be equal is a circle of equal altitude. There is a direct proportionality between a body's altitude as measured by an observer and the distance of its GP from that observer. The lower the altitude, the farther away the GP. Therefore, when an observer measures a body's altitude, he obtains an indirect measure of the distance between himself and the body's GP. Sight reduction is the process of converting that indirect measurement into a line of position.
Very good.
It can't be any clearer than that.
Yeah, I agree. Very
So,
good.
it's much needed. And this is the traps I've been waiting for Bob to come on and say to just measure altitude, but not distance. You can just strike him off as a buffoon.
I've edited two videos so far from that 4-hour extravaganza, and the second one was 2 parts. So it's like right in the middle when he's trying to jump ship. You're like, no, don't run away. I want to go through this with you. What are you doing? Don't run. And he's saying, no, if you're going to go through it, I'm going to run. And then later, after a lot of discussion about what had happened, you said, right, are you ready? I'm going to present how he's wrong. So I took that from the end of the show. It was right near the end. Do you remember doing it with the black and white picture? Tally-ho, gentlemen.
I'm trying to remember. It was a long show.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that got strapped onto the end of Bob's departure.
Oh, okay.
So it made concise sense.
Gotcha.
What number is today's show?
1499. It's live right now.
Well, what's with the later dates for like the 29th of September and the 28th?
What?
He's got it pre-organized to show on those dates.
Don't talk shop too much. We are actually live. It's not a pre-show. This is actually live, not a pre-show. The pre-show was dead boring and behind-the-scenes flat Earth debate. Me setting up.
So go on with your thought there. It's $14.99. That's what I have written down in my notebook.
Yeah, $14.99, Neil.
Thank you.
So we have got an audience. Got a live audience. Admittedly, the Discord chat is busier than the live audience, but like I say, it's members only. So it's not going to have a massive amount of people be there.
So the line of position that you get. Hang on, I got a cough. Okay, the line of position that you get by working the azimuth to your sighting with the sextant to get the bearing, that is what you're going to use with your dead reckoning, your assumed position, until you figure out exactly where you are, going through the steps. That is the radius line of the GP to you. And when you use the sextant, it is giving you the distance via the altitude. You get them both. You get the angle and the distance. Don't let them separate it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say that the horizon, when you're measuring it as a baller, right? It's an extrinsic measurement for the dip angle to be a geometric measurement. That's what you have to assume. I was trying to say this because I heard Akuma virus saying that refraction is intrinsic to the ball, but that means you're not measuring anything. That was why I stopped believing the ball, because it's not an extrinsic measurement. It's not a measurement anymore. They're invalidating the measurement by saying refraction, and they don't even get that.
Yeah, that was the very thing that had to be explained and laid out to me when I went to QE and said, look, just use this picture of the cranes in the Black Swan image. There's no refraction. The horizon's further. It's better. And although he didn't laugh at me, you know, from his tone, I detected that he's like, yeah, this is brilliant. It's working beautifully. You're telling me how annoyed you are with refraction being the rebuttal. Not realising, not Nathan Oakley, not realising that by saying refraction, they are invalidating their own claim of geometry. And that's what John's just laid out. It's the very reason he transitioned from being a trolley baller to being a flat earther. Because if you haven't got a physical geometric sphere edge, that's earth curve, to measure, then you're not on a sphere. It's as simple as that.
I just want to say to 10th man a second. If John is finished here, were you going to say something back there, John?
Nothing important. I was just agreeing with Nathan.
Okay. Bob didn't disagree that the angle gives you the distance yesterday. It's just he claimed the distance was over a curved Earth.
Yeah, but you covered that with him. Yeah, but you covered that.
Yeah,
with
but
him.
I thought Tent said earlier. Sorry, go on.
No, you covered that with him. That's another video that I've trimmed out. If you remember, go and watch it. So yeah, exactly, Brian. You've got him describing the arc over the top of the chord that he's drawn by dissecting through a sphere that he didn't have a radius for. You know, you were really... Everyone was on fire yesterday. It was a brilliant show with Bob. You know, should really give him props for turning up. You know, I'll give him props right now. Props, Bob. You got the balls to actually come here and fight your corner. Hey, Arwin.
Yeah, I give him props for that too, Nathan. Definitely. But I thought Kent said earlier that Bob was denying that you get your measurement.
Well, I thought I'll have to listen again. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I thought he had an open-ended statement by saying it doesn't do distance; it does altitude. I thought I heard him say that.
Yeah, he might have been double speaking a bit, but he did claim that the distance is. Sorry, you have to cough.
No, I'm good.
He had to cough.
Oh, he had to cough. I thought you said sorry. You had to cough.
Yeah, it was a carbon copy of out in the 10.
Oh, you're so sweet, not ruining my recording. Live stream.
That's funny. That's funny.
The most ridiculous thing he said, I think. Sorry, I was just going to say, I think the most ridiculous thing he said was that you don't need the horizon.
Well, he was setting us up because he was using an artificial horizon, and he wasn't telling us that he was using some kind of plate with some liquid in it, or he bought the actual artificial horizon you could buy for $38. So I posted a video that shows what an artificial horizon is and why you don't take dip measurement for it. So he was setting us up to say, well, I did it this way. I didn't use the horizon. Yeah, but you still had to use your horizon mirror on the plate, didn't you?
Okay. Just so it didn't get covered. I only know this because I've spent probably about 16 hours going through material and editing it, etc. But yeah, you said that yesterday, and I want you to explain why. So I'll just start you off. An artificial horizon is something that you can create that projects a horizon, but it's completely horizontal from the position of the projection unit. So therefore, well, you do it. Go ahead, 10th.
Again, I put the video up there because anyone could type in artificial horizon and watch the videos of how it works. But it's basically when you're fogged in, or you want to practice with your sextant on land, because they say do it a lot so you're familiar with the steps, and you're just within a few feet of it. It's not anything that's a long distance, and it's up, and it's only measures. They say, in fact, I have to go to the article, but 50 degrees or something, it's a limited measurement because it's half the thing. And so that part I never got into. I just know that they use it to practice. But what I want to, well, that's why I made the, the link there. So if anybody wants to go get the details, they can get it. Because I don't go looking into how those things work. I just know what they are. What I want to discuss is why Bob says you don't need the horizon when every sextant manual says you do. And then it came out, he was playing a little game with us because he wasn't using the natural horizon.
Let me answer. Why doesn't he want the horizon? Because his horizon as a physical geometric sphere edge has been debunked. And in terms of where their horizon lies, it doesn't establish horizontal. Now, the tool does, but their dip puts that all to crap. So when it came to, I thought you were talking about his double speaking around the fact that when he's asked to get a straight line for the measurement tool that requires one, he made it very plain he hadn't got one. I don't have one, but that's just going to give me an error. Like, error? The tool requires it. It's not like I said at the time, it's not sentient. It's not like, oh, it's all right, I know it's curved. Like, no, it's just giving you an angle, that's 2 straight lines, and he hasn't got one. So he's got to double speak around the fact that the tool is not functional. It's not achieving what it's set out to achieve if its sole purpose is to measure the angle between the horizon and whatever it is you're sighting.
Yeah, but he was being deceptive. He didn't come in and say he was using an artificial horizon. That came out later.
I didn't catch that because I'd gone off because it was a long show to, I don't know, go make a coffee, I think. And I'm in the kitchen, and like I say, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear him disclaim that. Not that I needed him to. You know, he's got to... I forget to cover these things. I'm being blasé about it because it's like, well, it goes without saying. Obviously, he's got to get a horizontal, and what do you use? You summarised it beautifully when you're like, what's that part of the tool called? You're like, horizon what now? It's like, that's what it's for. Now, by that point, he's already disclaimed that he can't get a straight line. Well, the tool measures angles. That's game over. Now, we've said this between ourselves dozens of times in the last couple of months. As soon as you go to measure an angle and you've got a curved surface, it's game over. So I'm holding him to account on that. It's like, well, where'd you get a straight line? You haven't got one. Game over. Oh, no, I've just got an error. No, you just can't use the tool. So as soon as it is actually game over, I'm not going to just lay down and go, right, okay, well, he's trying to pull the wool over our eyes by double speaking around the fact that he's got an error for a curved line when the tool uses a straight one. That is what it does. Game over, end of globe, doesn't work, needs to be flat, it is flat, it does work, can't work on a curve.
Yeah, if he wants to misuse a tool, I'm glad he admitted it, because it gives you instructions on how to use it. And you got to make sure it's calibrated in the first place, from the perpendicularity of the mirrors when you turn them sideways and adjust those with the 2 screws on each mirror, to the index arm, making sure that's set at 0 before you start. And you may have a damaged sextant index arm because maybe it fell or dropped, and maybe you could never get it to be at exactly 0. So you take note where it's at, and then you make the adjustment afterwards by minusing or adding, depending if it's on the plus or minus side of 0 on the thing. And so it's all there for calibrating. In fact, the sextant comes with a certificate if it's a good one, it's already been calibrated, and it tells you what the index arm is at the time the factory shipped it out to you. So for the ballers to use the very instrument that needs to be done properly and say, remember this, Brian? I'm going to do it sloppily. I'm going to be a lazy navigator. Well, yeah, you're going to be off all right. You might be off by more if you keep being that lazy. You're just dishonoring what the tool is all about. It's like not using a tape measure properly or a ruler and saying you did. And then we look at your cabinetry work, it's all crooked.
Good luck with that.
I have a question about the logic behind this. Has anybody formulated it into a modus ponens yet?
No, not yet.
I don't know if you need to. It's pretty obvious just from the citations I'm posting and the manuals that sextants come with how it works. But I mean, this is how it works. It measures angles between an object and the horizon.
Well, I was just saying, if you can put a modus ponens to it and demonstrate that you need the straight lines within it, then when they try to use the straight lines to claim their dip angle, you got the black swan to hit them with. So you got a modus ponens, and then with their failed affirming with consequence, you have a modus tollens.
Well, we don't even need that, John, because the straight line, the straight line is inferred when the GP's radius, 3,000 miles from where the sun is directly overhead, is coming to hit your feet as the observer holding the sextant. That's a radius straight line. And do you need more than 3,000 miles of straight line?
Well, you need a conclusion.
I have one.
The conclusion is you hang on. The conclusion is it works and you're within a half a mile of it. That's the conclusion.
So that's almost modus ponens.
Give me
Okay, but before you go, Nathan, I posted again the link in Master B for the artificial horizon for anyone who wants to see it. Go on, Brad.
Okay. If the sextant works on a globe, then the chord length will equal the arc length that resides above it. The chord length does not equal the arc length that resides above it, so the sextant does not work on a globe.
Precisely.
But that's still not proving the flat Earth. What I'm saying is modus ponens would be a flat Earth proof.
But it is. Because if it doesn't work on a globe, it means it can't. It means that if there's any curved surface, because the point of it is that the chord line is the need of a straight line, a straight radius. And if it's a curved surface at all, then they're going to have to bring that chord line through that curved surface. So, but the chord line will always be less in distance than the arc which is the curved surface that resides above it. So it is proven flat. If you understand
what I'm saying is you can't beg the question of a globe if you're proving a flat Earth. That's why I say it needs a modus ponens attached to it.
But that does prove it's flat, because if it worked on a globe, then the chord line would equal the arc distance.
Well, you're halfway there. Doesn't. That's halfway to a modus. You're halfway there anyway. Let's just do it.
For me?
No, John. It's his idea. Not you. Right. Don't feel obliged at all.
Yes. Okay, great. I go back to sleep on the floor.
Well, it's basically, if you measure the Earth as flat, then the Earth is flat. We measure the Earth as flat, therefore the Earth is flat. That's modus ponens.
Yeah. If A, then B. A, therefore B.
What about if the Earth were flat, the sextant would work? The sextant works, therefore the Earth is flat.
Modus ponens.
That's begging the question.
That's begging the question.
My one was a modus ponens.
You could turn it into modus ponens very easily, though. He's halfway there.
Well, if the sextant works on a globe, then the chord length will be equal to the arc distance. The chord length is not equal to the arc distance, so the sextant doesn't work on a globe.
Well, what I'm saying is the black swan already debunked the globe. What we need is, and the sextant is a flat Earth proof, but you got logical steps you have to take, and you have to walk people through it. But if you could just formulate it into modus ponens, then you're done.
I think I'm missing the point.
It's your idea, John. You do it.
I think I'm missing the point. Yeah. But I think I'm missing the point a little bit. The whole point of it is, for it to work on a globe, they need the chord line, because they need the straight bottom, the straight base to the triangle, for the angle, right? They need that, and the only way to achieve that is to run an imaginary chord through their sphere. But that doesn't work, because the chord and arc length are different. So it doesn't work on a sphere. So what does it work on? If it needs a flat baseline, it works on a flat. You understand?
Yeah. Right, that's the extra logical step. Yes.
Well, not only that, but on Mitchell's video, which he did a great job on, he took them the 64 navigation, 57 navigational stars plus sun, moon, and planets, blah, blah, blah. So, and he did the circle of equal altitude, and it covered pretty much the whole Mercator chart of the whole Earth. And so we've seen S1, S2, S3, the radii of those three circle of equal altitude are parallel. So thousands and thousands of miles are flat when you do through three circles of equal altitudes.
I'm just going to get back onto John's point, because he's saying it will strengthen the argument for those who have a type of brain that likes to see it laid out in a logical consistency. Well, I agree with him. I think it's worth dwelling on and coming up with a really sharp modus ponens. Why not?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. But at the same time, sextant can't work on a curved surface. How's that? Throw that in there.
I agree. John's already just covered this. He's saying, look, right, in terms of it debunking the spherical surface, you are right. Nothing's ever going to take that away from a tool that requires straight lines. And, Bob's little concession yesterday is useful at this stage in the game. They haven't got one. There's no two ways about it. Nice to have it actually conceded. Excellent. It's like, back to the Black Swan, at best you've debunked the radius. It's a similar thing. Thank you very much, Bob. Because now we won't have any fundies coming here telling us, oh no, it's not refracted anymore, and trying to get away with the do-si-do circle jerk that you attempted, when you've made it absolutely plain, no uncertain terms. They don't have a straight line, and the tool requires one. So yeah, you're right, it doesn't, can't, won't work on a sphere. But we've got the Black Swan. Its sole purpose is to absolutely annihilate and leave no wiggle room. Whereas in terms of a globe debunking, which is why Bob came in, he wants to work his way around it as a globe debunking. Because that's the only avenue in. Because as soon as you actually get down to the nitty-gritty of how it works, it proves that it's flat. So that's the bit that should be focused on. It's the stronger of the two sides of it, even if the Black Swan didn't exist. The utilization of straight lines to acquire horizontal, that is the essence of flat Earth. So I would say, yeah, not to disagree that it disproves the sphere, it does, but it's a much stronger flat Earth proof than I think it's getting credit for at the moment, hence dwelling on it and formulating logical consistency arguments that people can just rattle off is useful. And I'd like to bet £1 that when this conversation reaches the ears of someone like Mitchell, as you brought him up, if it had a modus tollens or a modus ponens or a whatever, a logical consistency argument strapped on the side, he'd just memorise it and rattle it off to a few fundies he's in debate with. Because it's easy to do it then. That's how he got that, at best you've debunked the radius out of Mr. Sensible, because he just literally rattled it off verbatim.
Well, what about, does the sextant require a flat geometric baseline to work?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So if the sextant requires a flat geometric baseline to work, then the Earth is flat. The sextant does require a flat geometric baseline to work, so the Earth is flat.
Yes, that's modus ponens. That's getting better. That's definitely much more sharp. No offense, Dave. John, sorry. What did I say, Dave?
No, I agree. I agree, because what I was discussing was with the autolites. That was my modus ponens, was the autolites. I wasn't using sextants.
Okay, rattle off your... Can you say it again then? Because I didn't catch that.
If we measure the Earth as flat, then the Earth is flat. We measure the Earth as flat. Therefore the Earth is flat. The tangent plane that was with the debunked tangent.
Yep.
I'm addressing.
Absolutely. Where'd you get tangent from? Black Swan. So it's always going to reference back, because you can just whisper Black Swan when it comes to them attempting to weasel their way into the sextant as a globe claim, which is all they've done so far. Have we all not recognised the pattern?
What are you talking about? You don't have a straight line. There's a distance, but you don't need a straight line.
Well, that's why I was saying that the modus ponens would be useful. But, if you haven't figured it out from the Black Swan, you might be in trouble as far as your reasoning skills.
Well, Brian went through that yesterday as well, because he explained that it's only one logical step to Earth can only be flat, because by definition, if you've got a shape beneath your feet, that's going to create a geometric physical limitation to your view at some stage. If there isn't one, then you've got only one choice in terms of the aspect that's laid out before you, and that's a flat plane. So that is a single step from the Black Swan. But again, that flip side of the same coin, there's no point in taking the Black Swan and saying, right, I've only got to take one logical step to get it to be a flat Earth proof. Yeah, doesn't distract from that flat Earth proof either. But it's a globe killer, and the sextant's a flat Earth proof. Let's, focus on their strengths, and know in the back of your mind that if someone tries to weasel their way in to the sextant argument as a flat Earth proof, all they'll ever do is try and weasel in how they use it on a sphere. Just whisper Black Swan to them. Where'd you get a straight line? It's an expansion of that, which we don't need to cover anymore, thanks to Bob. So it's just whisper Black Swan and be done with it.
Didn't you catch a Kuma virus with the black swan in the same argument?
Yeah.
He fell right into it?
Yeah, but with one subtle difference. I was never going to get a concession, and even if I did from a Kumu virus, who cares? About not having a straight line. He just said, I'll just look and see. He's just double speaking his way around it. Not useful. Now, the fact that he's double speaking his way around it, every time he did, I'd say Black Swan. With Bob, he actually conceded he doesn't have a straight line. Not exactly a massive amount of stretch when there's been 20 months of them telling us about how not straight it is. So, yeah, not exactly a shock that he finally concedes it. It's just nice to get that done and dusted with, so that when anybody tries to weasel their way in to say, no, the sextant can work on a sphere, just whisper Black Swan. Oh, yeah. The sphere that you're going to definitely be drawing in your diagram with radii and tangents and chords, and you're going to need R for that. Black Swan. End of argument. Meanwhile, you're going to have a flat plane for this tool to work. And it works. Therefore, Earth's a flat plane.
Can I give another go at the modus ponens for the sextant? If the sextant needs a flat geometric baseline for a calculated distance, then the Earth must be flat. The sextant does require a flat geometric baseline for a calculated distance, so then the Earth must be flat.
Excellent.
I like it.
This is getting really refined, really quickly.
Good one, Brian.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
I did say this a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. Up until now, I've never been able to say to somebody, hand on heart, when they ask me, what's your silver bullet? Proof for a flat Earth. I don't like this. I hope Kiwi's not ears here. No. The sea sparrow I don't like, because it's tied to the military. Now, without going into too much detail of why that means I don't like it, it's nothing to do with me not liking military in the way that you might assume. It's just because of the type of proof that it is. I just go, I don't like that so much.
Yeah, it's skeptical.
Well, it's not that I'm skeptical, it's just, how are you going to get on that bridge? Or use that weapon? Or there's a lot of problems with it for me as an individual. Now, that might not be the case for a lot of people, and I can get that, But I wanted something else, I'll be honest. And up until now, I've not been able to, when someone says, well, give it me, what's your best flat Earth proof? I'll be like, well... and then I'd just sort of think, when you say best, I want it to be the best. I want to be able to slap something down in front of you and you go, whoa, yeah, I with a little bit of consideration, because obviously nothing that you provide in that respect, you're debunking the nature of their paradigm. Their reality is a sphere. So to have something that's strong enough to say, look, this is literally a proof it can only be flat, it's got to be good. So therefore, something that's getting people around all over the world and has done for a long time, still works right now and needs a flat plane, I'm going to call that a silver bullet. That's what I'm going to stand by it from here on forward. I'll be like, what's your proof of flat Earth? Sextant. Can only work on a flat plane. And it does. Because the Earth's a flat plane.
Yeah,
well,
I remember
for me,
when Ken said it.
Sorry, Neil.
No, I was just saying, I remember when Ken said, sextant proves flat Earth, and it's the year of the sextant. And then it just started unfolding day in and day out, and look where we are now. Beautiful.
For me, it's not the number one flat Earth proof.
Bloody Irish, kick him out.
No, for me, it's definitely airplanes. And I'll tell you why. Because of the chord line of the wings, of how airplanes have to fly, and the fact that airplanes are simplistic. Everybody knows about airplanes, and most people, well, not most people, but a good percentage of the world have been on a flight or may be on a flight. So you could tell somebody airplane and explain some small bits to them, just about, you don't even have to go into the core, you don't have to even go into too much detail. Just tell them that airplanes fly with their noses above 0 degrees horizontal at all times.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I agree. Now you've said it, I totally agree. It's, in terms of complexity, it's no more or less complex than the sextant argument, and is just as much a proof of flat Earth. So yeah, I do agree. There are other, this gun's getting filled up. It's like we've only got one.
I think it's just an older one. The sextant is more of a newer one, so people are more excited. It's causing problems at the moment. There's more focus on it, so I understand that. But the ordinary everyday person would never really look at a sextant. But the ordinary everyday person does go on holiday, which
That's
would mean
true, Brian.
yeah.
Right, because that's what, when I first started getting into the flat Earth, that's what I couldn't wrap my head around. And how the heck are planes working if we're on a globe? It just doesn't make any sense.
What do they call them again, Neil? Air what now?
Airplane, not air globe.
One of the things I never thought of asking Bob yesterday, and it wasn't the last ones I thought about, is what is plain sailing? Define plain sailing. Because if you look in the definition of plain sailing, the correct definitions in the official sources online, plain
Is it sailing on a plane?
Yeah, it's pre-assuming that the Earth is flat. That's what
Shocking, isn't it? What's plain sailing? Well, it is to sail on a plane. Plain sailing. Fairly straightforward stuff. They use sextants, right? Yeah. Because they need a flat plane. Straight lines, angles. Yeah, can't work on a globe.
And airplanes use air, and they fly over a plane. And they also have a sextant, above a sextant within an airplane as well. And other instruments. So, I mean, it's like both types of transport, whether it be by ocean or by air, like they have to show you the aspect of the Earth, don't they? They have to.
Absolutely. That's why I say, obviously, that's how you experience the world. Observably, that's how you see the world. Navigatably, flat.
Happy days.
Adam joined as well.
Hey, Adam. How's it going?
Afternoon, guys. Just
You went out to take the dog or whatever yesterday, and I gave you props because I was like, shut you down when I used your argument you gave me. So I was like, oh, better say sorry to Adam for nicking his argument and then telling him to shut up.
Well, I seem to have had psychic underpants on with you yesterday, didn't I? Every point I kept just beating you to the punch.
That was why I did it. In the edit, that wasn't there because that was before it. So, yes, I don't feel so guilty now. That's right. We were of like mind for whatever. It's usually chocolate.
No,
now, first of all, once you give Nathan something...
Just one sec, Neil. Just one sec. Before that gets cut off, I actually do want to give him the props. So, I wouldn't have... that argument with Bob wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Adam. Because Adam broke down the switcheroo, the bait and switch that's used when they're talking about looking at a star, and then if you imagine looking at the Polaris in this example and then backing away from it 69 statute miles, okay, that's all you've done. You've backed away from it. It's dropped into the horizon, or lower to the horizon as you've moved away from it, right? But at some point our fundy opponents will say 1 degree. Now when Mitchell from Australia was explaining it, it's like, yeah, well, that's a linear relationship across a flat plane. Yeah, very, very much the case. I'm like, yeah. Why hasn't this come before? Then Adam pointed out to me, no, that is where they bait and switch you. They will talk about that 1 degree, meaning not how it drops if you measured it with a sextant towards the horizon, but as you move over the spherical surface, they're now assuming without you realizing it. So suddenly that 1 degree becomes 1 degree over an R-based sphere they've assumed. But that's how I had Bob absolutely by the short and curlies. And had it not been from Adam, for Adam, I wouldn't have. So thank you, Adam. And I'm sorry I shut you down, even though I'm saying I shouldn't feel guilty.
To be fair, mate, you don't. I couldn't help myself because he was trying to get it in early on, and I'd sat quietly. And then when you'd pulled the conversation back, and I could feel it was. And as soon as he used it, that's why I went.
It made the edit. It made the edit. So in the edit, if you remember, go and watch it. You can hear Adam in the background going, "You'll need half for that." And I'm like, no, don't take my thunder. How dare you?
It had been about 20 minutes hard work to get him back to that. So yeah, apologies. It was rather rude. It was like nicking your toast after you'd buttered it.
Not at all. It gave me a time to compose myself and become even more smug when I did it.
Well, when they start throwing in things like nautical miles, they're throwing in their globe. They're claiming a radius of 3959 as average. Because all these nautical miles are, not really. right? Yes and no. They think they are, right? Because they're using the longitude line, right? So longitude lines are the same distance curved or flat. So they are begging the question when they're saying nautical miles, but they think that nautical miles are only a spherical distance. They don't work on flat because they don't understand that the reason that you can have a Gleason's map or an AE map is because the longitude lines don't change in distance. The latitude lines change. The longitude lines don't. And all their nautical miles are based on the longitude. A longitudinal angles basically coming from the center, from the center out to the. They are pre-assumed. Let's say they make a chord line out of the diameter of their equator, and they bring angles out from the center with a zenith straight down from the north, from geographic north. So like that's how they throw in these nautical miles. So when they're throwing in 1 degree, they're throwing in 60 nautical miles, and they love to use the term nautical miles. I always use statute miles and a state statute, on purpose, just because they want to say nautical. They want us to speak about nautical because they think nautical is some kind of a globe proof, but it's a nothing. It's just a distance over a longitude line, which is no difference, flat or curved. As I said, the Gleason's map would be an impossibility as a longitudinal map if the distances were different on flat. So they think they have something when they say degree or they say nautical miles, but they don't actually.
Well, it's the switcheroo. It's the switcheroo. That's the bait and switch. Yeah. Swap you onto an R-based assumption without you noticing. When you say they think they've got something, well, yeah, they've got a suitcase behind them that you haven't noticed, or so they hope, that they're going to switch out after describing a relationship that's linear across a plane, as we're all experiencing, and the measurement that would be taken to get that would be with straight lines and angles from a sextant. But they're then going to change that into an R-based assumption, so we're moving over a curved surface. Just hope you don't notice. They haven't got anything. They've got begging the question fallacy.
I would just like to say that anyone who thinks that Adam Meakin is just a chemist, mathematician, and accomplished family man don't know Adam Meakin.
He's also Batman.
Adam's the brain behind the operation.
Quick shout out to all the people who've joined us on this live members only stream. So we've got M, Shatner's Bassoon, Michael Kahn, Rob H, and whoever else is joining them that's not chatting. So there are a few people watching now, which is great. Shout out to all the people in the members only stream.
And just for the record, when Nathan grabs an idea from you, it's over. It belongs to him.
No, I'm not going to take credit for that. That's definitely Adam's. I'll use it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You get it out. I mean, you're so quick that you get it out. So you're going to get it. Whoever has the idea is going to get it the first time. But then the rest of the time, it's going to be you.
But that was
you got to get it.
It was lined up for Bob to fall right into. I don't understand what a chord is, Bob. Can you explain it to me? Yeah, Brian doesn't get it. Yeah. Can you explain it to me in great detail? Tell me all about how you beg that question of a sphere, so I can ask you for the hour at the end. I won't tell you, that's why I'm pretending I don't know what a chord is. But tell me what a chord is. So then he waffles on about how he gets his chord with the North Pole and all this other bullshit that's on a sphere. It was absolutely epic. Yesterday was so much fun. Editing it was fun, I must admit. Sometimes when I'm editing the videos, I'll sit chuckling. Often I won't. I'll sit there sweating because I'm poor and I'm making them because I want to earn more money. But in this instance, although that is also the case, I did actually take quite a lot of pleasure out of editing those videos together, chuckling and listening to bits over and over again. I didn't make a chord. I didn't use a chord. And then obviously I'd go and edit in him going, the chord it's a semi-chord halfway through, him describing it and using it and detailing it to me and Brian arguing about it. And then when he gets asked for R, he goes, I didn't use a chord. Just absolutely comical.
Yeah, you can't know a chord length without knowing the circumference of the circular sphere that you're going to be running it through. And you can't know the circumference without knowing the diameter and the radius. That kind of thing. So, because since he said chord, like, he was killing himself originally by saying chord because that is, I didn't get a chance because you pulled him on him using a chord which is begging the radius of the globe. But where I was going to go after that was just ask him, was it a straight line measurement? This distance is a straight line measurement, because the chord doesn't match the arc. So if it's a straight line measurement, it's not over the curve. It has to be the chord. What's the point of the chord then? If he says no, well, what's the point of the chord? You're not going to do it. So he did. Regardless of how good a debater somebody would be, you just can't win that. You're not going to win. You can't win that. Even if you were absolutely the best debater ever, you have to just say, look, I can't win that. You just don't have the tools to win that. You just don't have it to win that argument.
Unless you're a masturbator.
That's a reference to our Discord group, Skype group. Please don't demonetize me, YouTube. Do we bother with housekeeping when it's a members-only stream?
Well, sure.
I'm always a believer in the housekeeping questions.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Well, it depends who's in Discord. Is there anybody in Discord that's going to oppose us on them? Because obviously the die-hard fans are going to be the members, aren't they? And presumably they're well acquainted with housekeeping, and we're chit-chatting quite happily.
Even if they were there, they wouldn't oppose us anyway. They just stay silent. Oh, this is members only. I got you.
No, that doesn't mean Discord's not open. There might be a few fundies that go, oh, I want to get into Discord because there's no apparent live show on for the public, which there isn't. Michael Craxton, a new face. Hello, Michael. As long as we've got at least one fundy that can potentially oppose us on these questions, then I'm happy to run housekeeping. Because it's kind of like, look, the door's open. We ask these questions daily. And if you want to come in and challenge someone, there's your chance. That's why it was like a bit weird yesterday. Bob came in and I sat and looked, saw him there. And I'm like, all right, obviously he's going to contest every word of housekeeping. And he didn't say a word. He just sat there in silence. It was really weird.
Yeah, he came in saying, well, Nathan, you seem busy, so I'll come another time. And I recognized the voice. I was like, whoa, wait a second.
Busy doing the same thing we do daily, housekeeping, at that particular time.
Maybe he wanted an intro.
Oh, I see. You think he just wanted a fanfare?
Correct. Looking for an introduction.
So he's delusional. Thinks that we're on tenterhooks because he's here and we're really concerned about his presence. Bob, if you are under the impression that we gave two craps about your presence here, you were absolutely wrong.
Well, if you listen back to what he actually said, we were speaking about Einstein and we were speaking about general relativity and the farce that it is and that. And he actually said, well, you seem to be having a pretty interesting discussion at the moment, so I'll come back later. He actually said...
Yeah, that was it.
So he didn't actually... I don't know what he did do, but he did say... I don't know what he didn't do, but I know he did do. He said that.
Either way. Useful. I'm just pleased.
Right,
we got several concessions out of him. The assumption that Brian wanted to corner him on got aired. Their assumption automatically that the dip isn't the actual height correction, it's for their dip to the horizon in their physical geometric assumption. Brian got that out of Bob. I got out of him where he gets a straight line. To use sextant, he doesn't. And we had him absolutely over a barrel when it came to him drawing a chord to slice the top of a sphere to give him an area of equal altitude. Again, Brian had him over a barrel about the arc over the top of it that would give him a different distance and therefore wouldn't have a radius for an area of equal altitude, therefore not an area of equal altitude, precisely as is required. And when he drew that chord through his sphere, he assumed a sphere with an R value that he'd need and didn't have, all of which got conceded to a degree by dumbfounded silence. Where'd you get R? Total silence.
Or I don't need R.
It does feel like we've made strides forward this year. I mean, in the subject of flat Earth, in case anybody was wondering if I meant about my acoustic treatment or getting a new mic. That's not what I mean. I mean, the show.
No, I was thinking as you guys were talking, maybe we should give a summary of what we remember 2019, 2020, and 2021. If we were to go back just for those 3 years, what was the main thing being discussed? What was the main hurdles, for the ballers that they had to deal with? And now it's obvious what we've been talking about, the last few months. And then the Black Swan obviously was 2020 and has lasted and will last because it was epic. So what would be the summary of this year so far going into the 9th month?
It'd be that we ascertained a silver bullet proof for Earth being flat with the sextant, and then progressively saw anti-flat earthers try and dip their toe in the water of rebuttal by offering alternative methods that would suggest that this tool that requires straight lines can work on a curved surface, to which we've now replied Black Swan, because they don't have any straight lines for this tool to work. So it's the year of the sextant, as opposed to 2020, year of the Black Swan. I mean, 2019 for me was all about them having no drop measurements. There was no drop in Google Earth, and we were showing the fact that none of the maps account for it, even though they've got topography and elevation changes, and it's just certainly capable of showing a drop if Earth was a sphere. They just don't measure it, and that was really what 2019 was all about for me. 2018 is too long ago for me to remember. I certainly remember 2017 being all about the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator and its assumption of R, and having Mick West, I believe that was in 2017, just admit to the fact that it's a begging the question fallacy and they just assume R in the first instance. So it's been, if you take all the major milestones, i.e. getting them to admit that they're just reifying a model and assuming R, and then them just saying, yeah, we just assume R, that's perfectly okay. And then us debunking R, well, next in the chain was showing that we don't have any drop measurements whatsoever, even though they're asserting it by way of optical perspective hijacking. They don't have any drop. There's none measured, and when you do actually build anything, you're building on a flat surface and referencing a flat surface, and you're not referencing any 8-inch mile drop. Then you move on to debunking the assertion that you can assume you've got a optical hijacking perspective exclusive horizon that's a physical Earth curve edge by way of the Black Swan in 2021. And then you move on to actually proving the Earth is flat with a tool that would lean on it if anybody tries to weasel their way in and say the sextant works on a globe. Year of the sextant 2021. I wonder what 2022 will bring.
Well, I have something to say. 2019 was surveying, and they got highlighted. Maps, surveying, that kind of thing, more so than they had done previous. Last year was the Black Swan. This year is the sextant. But there is another thing out there, and the sextant ties into it, that may become, if flat earthers would wake up, it would already be a big deal. And that is GPS. GPS uses flat plane coordinates on a consistent basis. That is the raw coordinate is always flat plane, X, Y, Z. 3-dimension. Now, I have a little thing about GPS I've been thinking about. That what about if, because the way people are saying the signals, like they always claim the signals are coming from the sky. It's all a big argument, whatever. And I can't say I've actually debunked that they're coming from the sky, but I haven't been shown evidence that they are either, right? But what about if they are actually bouncing signals off of the stars, whatever the hell the stars are? They don't have to know what they are to find out they can bounce something off. So if they can somehow be bouncing something off of them, then it's basically they're from a digital point of view and a mathematical point of view, they're like everybody's using a sextant. You know what I mean? So you're being triangulated via the stars, your position via the stars, as opposed to them having satellites up there.
I see. So you're saying that, but how would you your average car GPS transmitter know the position of the stars in the day? I don't really follow.
But it's not that. They already know that the signal is coming from the ground to the stars and back down to you. So they're triangulating your position via 2 or 3 stars. Or more, maybe more. Like they say 4 and more for trilateration. Sorry, not trilateration, it's trilateration with GPS.
Does make
sense.
So
they could be using 4 or more.
I see what you're driving at. Yeah. It does make sense. When that is established and works for triangulating a position, wouldn't you just use a mechanical or electrical whatever system to give that facility to you, rather than developing this whole other network of satellites that we don't even think exist in a sky vacuum to triangulate your position? What would be the point? What it's like doubling, it's like redundant, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, why do all that when you can do just as good and better on the ground? But if you could use the sky without having to have things up in the sky, if you could use the sky just by bouncing signals from the ground, because GPS does work very well, but it doesn't work in the center of the Sahara Desert. Why? Because there's no transmitters transmitting signals. But that doesn't mean people in New York aren't getting signals that are coming from the sky, if you understand what I mean. I don't know. I mean, it's a concept. Maybe it's a bit far out. Maybe it's totally wrong. But, I mean, if they already have satellites, which is what stars are, then why would you want to have to put something up there if they can use them the same way as they use a signal as opposed to a sextant? And they use they triangulate your position with basically the same way as the like circles of equal latitude, except for with that they're using 4 and more for what they call trilateration. And I mean, there's other things as well, because they might just be getting a basic fix on where you are, and then they're using other signals around you, like bouncing signals off of other people's mobile phones and off of other GPS units and stuff like that. Because what you will notice is that now that 5G is coming in or whatever, what people will notice is that they will have even more precise, fast coordinates. You know, that kind of thing. They'll be really tracked down to the foot distance, the square foot distance of where they are. But it's funny enough that as 5G is coming in, the Starlink system is coming in. So what is given the precision? Is it the Starlink that they're claiming is up in the sky vacuum, or is it all the 5G? Because the 5G is going to be a lot more shortwave, high frequency signals. That's the whole point of it, isn't it?
Right. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this after the fact on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live as a member, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for hopefully sharing the show. Not that it's going to make much good if it's only members, but there we go. Stay tuned if you're watching on a Programming stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
What star? Star's light. How can you bounce anything off it?
Well, I don't know what a star is. That's the thing. Just because it's a light, just because there's a light there, doesn't mean that it doesn't have physicality.
But why would you isolate it to the star? You know, yeah, I'm sure there's a container wall somewhere that'll bounce everything, right? But to suggest that it is one of the lights specifically seems kind of weird to me. Like, why?
Well, the whole point is that the stars would help to trilaterate your position. It's basically an advanced digital version of the Sextant GPS. Because the GPS.
But they wouldn't need to bounce anything off a star, though. All they need is a sky map, which they already have, and then they have the technology so advanced that your phone or whatever way you're using in your hand or in the car, let's say you have a GPS system in your car, it's just like the sextant sighting a star, so they know where you are, they know where the GP of the star is, and they do it that way. They're not bouncing anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm only going off of people, the claim that people get signals from above. As I said, I haven't seen actual evidence that this is correct, but whichever way, my point is that it doesn't really matter what way they do it. My point is that they are doing it by. My point is that they are doing it using the sky, and the satellites they speak about are the satellites above us, the natural satellites.
Yeah, but when they reference, we're getting it from the satellites. They're trying to say there's outer space, and that's where the satellites are. So it's just a cover story. Whereas the Sextant already proves you could triangulate with a star. So why can't GPS do the same thing, all with all the codes and everything in it, based on where you are and where that star's GP is? Of course, the cover story is going to be it's a satellite in space, but really all you did was devise an electronic sextant.
Yeah, the GPS though is a receiver. The unit you'll have, your GPS phone, is a receiver. That's
right.
The thing. It's not a sender.
Okay, so then what you have is the high altitude satellites that are hung by the balloons as we've seen them launch. So
but we don't even have
hold
to
on,
go
just
there.
one sec, guys. Just one sec. Discs, what's he called? Dagger Lion or something? Got your mic wide open. You're causing a bit of chaos.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to find a spot to jump in and couldn't. So
jump in now. Perfect.
Got it. So I kind of just got here. You talking about bouncing radio off celestial objects? Is that what you're talking about, or no?
Well,
I heard bouncing off of
stars.
I assume that's what.
Well, the concept is that the use of the stars and trilaterating your position via their position in accordance to you, as opposed to
you don't even have to triangulate it though.
What do you mean?
Can you just bounce radio waves? Because I mean, certain radio frequencies can go through the ionosphere, right? So can you just bounce it directly off?
You're going into the ionosphere. You'd have to prove the ionosphere exists for a start. So you're going way beyond.
We can bounce it off the things we see in the sky. I'll say that. Okay.
What can you bounce off them, though? Well, what can you bounce off them? What type of signals can you bounce? Yeah, radio. Radio is a large spectrum, though.
I don't
GPS
know
is
the
a
exact
microwave
frequency, 50 megahertz. I don't know, dude. I don't know how radio works, but I know that because it's a hobbyist thing, right? Amateur radio enthusiasts do this. It's called EME, or moon bouncing. They do it with the moon.
Yeah, but
it's actually very accessible to the public. You can use an EME antenna. It's not like a commercial technology or anything.
Yeah, but the problem is...
Can I take this, Brian?
No, hang on, Arlen. No, give me a second. The problem is, right, you can claim that you can bounce a signal off the moon at new moon when the moon is nowhere to be seen. So you don't know if you're bouncing a signal off the moon, or you know you're bouncing a signal off something. If you bounce a signal to the right of the moon, will the signal be different? Will you get a return the same way as you get it off of the moon?
No, of course you wouldn't get a return.
How do you know?
Because, I know you guys, this isn't going to be good evidence to you guys, but I'm part of radio enthusiast communities, and I've asked about this because it's something that I thought tied into flat Earth, and that's how they explain it.
But did they answer that?
So you have to be pointing the antenna.
Guys, hold on. Did they answer that specific question though that Brian's just asked? I'll just repeat his question. So he's saying, if you just point it 2 degrees, 5 degrees, whatever, or arc seconds off the moon, would you get the same return signal? You're saying no. I've asked, but have they said, look, here you go, I'm pointing it just at the sky and going off and not coming back? Have they actually shown that, or what can you back it with?
No, they have not demonstrated that. That's just what the normal, American citizens have told me. The people who do it as a hobby.
It told you what?
That you have to be pointing the antenna at the moon.
Right.
That's actually, it's part of the reason it's actually
cool. We got
extremely hard for new people to do.
Okay, we got that. But the point is that Brian's saying if you just point it at the sky, you'll get the same result. Now, unless it's been confirmed to not be the case, obviously that's the end of the discussion, isn't it?
No,
I don't
my
think
point is
that is what would happen.
Yeah, but see, there you go. Like, this is the problem. I asked if you sent the signal to the right of the moon or the left of the moon, would you get a signal return? And you said no. But you don't have any evidence to support that you don't. All you know is that people pointed at the moon and got a return. But did they point it to the right of the moon or left of the moon and get a return?
Yeah, the answer is no. We've just covered that. So
the answer
is covered. I've covered it.
It's not.
It's covered. It's covered. We've covered it. It's covered. It's been reiterated and summarised by Brian. Right? No, they haven't. No, their specific instruction is point it at the moon, and we get a bounce off it. Right? Okay, so that doesn't confirm that
Same
if you
thing
don't
with other
point
celestial objects.
So the summary again interrupted. Yeah. So if you don't point it at the moon as specifically instructed and as you have been told, you don't know that you won't get exactly the same result. You don't know that. That's fine, but we can move on now.
I've done a specific episode about this subject. I've never seen a demonstration ever where the moon was actually in the visual of the demonstration even. It's just a stationary setup. They say it's pointing at the moon. There's no evidence for that whatsoever. I've never seen evidence.
Okay,
well,
then.
So my question is, what is it bouncing off of then? Because when you've pointed at other celestial objects, you get different response times.
Hold on.
Different response times.
Let me ask his question. Do you want to repeat that?
Oh, I'm going?
Yes.
Oh, sweet. So I mean, if it's not hitting the moon, what's it hitting? Because I mean, radio waves don't bounce back like that. And when you point it at different celestial objects, you get different response times.
Okay, you've asked a question.
Yeah, I could give an answer.
Okay. So, if it's not a claim that I'm making, why do I have to answer that? If it's not a claim...
You don't have to answer it.
Was the your upward to repeat it? What did that mean? Because I'm going to launch into repeating it. It sounded like you didn't understand.
Yeah, I didn't hear you the first time, but you're good now.
Okay, best not to talk straight through me repeating it then, as you did. So,
right.
I'd suggest that before I even start, you reply. This isn't going to be a fair, reasonable, easy discussion if I suggest that you don't immediately interrupt me repeating myself. So, if you haven't actually got a demonstration of this moon bounce, why would it be the case that me not making a claim about it would have to justify it in any way, shape or form? I'm not making a claim about it.
No, you don't. It just, it doesn't seem to correlate with how a flat Earth. I mean, maybe...
Oh, sorry, stop. Sorry. Doesn't seem to correlate with what
I was
flat
talking
Earth...
too there,
Excuse me. Let's just get something straight here. I run this show. When I tell you, I'm not asking you. Is that clear? Shut up
I just
when I
needed
speak.
you to admit that. That's all.
Do you not understand that you're being told, not asked? That's got to be clear before I will continue to tell you what's what. Yeah, what you're doing is you're building up a little straw man about something we haven't claimed. Now, I thought that was made clear, very unsubtle by me. When I said I haven't made a claim about it, why would I have to justify it? But then you go on to, well, I need to burn a little straw man you haven't claimed about how it doesn't correlate with the flat Earth you haven't made any claims about this with. And there you are interrupting me. Clearly, directions aren't your strong point. Clearly, being told isn't tolerable. Being told, don't like being told. Were you a single child, spoiled little brat that got to do whatever it liked and talk through anybody that they liked? Is that your problem, your malfunction? Only child, maybe? Shut up! When I fucking talk, you listen. You understand me?
Can I respond to that?
About your straw man, it will be your response. About the little straw man you just attempted to burn.
Yep. All right. I wasn't using it as a disproof for flat Earth. It sounded like you guys were talking about that, like using.
Yeah, that's a fucking lie. So when you said it doesn't correlate with a flat Earth, that's you burning a flat Earth strawman and now lying through your back teeth about what you've done because I've caught you out doing it. Yes, you were. That's what you precisely did. Now don't tell me that isn't what you were trying to do when it's what I've caught you out on. You attempted to burden the proof reversal fallacy us. It didn't work. You attempted to strawman us by saying it doesn't correlate with the model we haven't claimed in this respect. It's the second time I've said it. Don't now try and lie about what you have done. That is what you did.
Not lying. Because I was going to ask if that could. I was asking if that could work on a flat Earth. Like, could the...
Yeah, I understood what you asked, and I said I haven't made a claim about it. That's the third time. Are you deaf or stupid? I haven't made a claim about it.
Both.
Yeah, I asked you in response to it the first couple of times why I'd have to do that, given I haven't made a claim about it. And then you went on to explain how you needed to burn a little straw man. And now you're constantly with your mic open, babbling through me. Yeah, what is your malfunction? While you are being told, just put yourself on mute, listen to the flat earther explaining how you've used a string of fallacies. That would be to attempt to burden a proof reversal fallacy us, yeah? I get us to justify something we're not claiming, and also strawman us with a model with... What part of that don't you understand? The shut up bit, the pop yourself on mute bit. Typical prick. Wide open mic while I'm talking. Typical prick. Yeah, you've used a string of fallacies, prick.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay. So, anything else?
Am I good to speak now? Is it clear?
When someone asks you anything else, does that not compute as me inviting you to speak, or do you need to clarify it because you're really stupid?
Well, you've asked me a couple questions.
Yeah, you do need to clarify it then. So you're going to clarify that when I say anything else, you're too stupid to realise that's an invite to speak. You need to clarify that it's your turn to speak. I will give you permission to speak. It is now your time to speak. Have you anything else to add to the conversation? If that isn't clear enough, your time to speak now. Go.
Cool, yeah. I mean, you're using all those big words about the fallacies and stuff. I don't think I was using a straw man.
That's your mistake.
Agree with
Yeah, that's your mistake.
But,
Don't think. Yeah, there's your problem.
No,
yeah, that's what's got you into this trouble thinking.
Yeah.
Probably best if you don't do that anymore. It's just getting you into trouble.
Yeah. Where this came from, Nathan, is we were speaking about a very interesting subject and a very interesting concept. Now, this lad came in to speak with us about it, but it ended up being a conversation about whether we can, whether moon bounce works on flat Earth or something like that. I mean, that's going away from the concept. I mean, it's a concept until it's not a concept. So we didn't claim it wasn't a concept. We spoke about it, about the fact that we already have satellites in the sky. They're called stars, but we call them stars, and we have a moon and a sun and other things. And if they can trilaterate your position using them somehow, sending signals from the ground, bouncing off of them back to you with a GPS receiver or with a phone, whatever, then that might be very likely how it's happening, as it could make a lot of sense. Now, it might be completely wrong, right? But what's after happening here is this lad has brought it from a very interesting conversation to him having a little thing with you and building a straw man. And even things he said, like, how could that work on a flat Earth? About different distances, different signal distances. Well, depends. If you're sending a signal at a different angle, then you're going to get a different return, because the signal is not going to hold full strength all the way. So the steeper the angle, the further the signal is from you, just like with a sextant. The radius distance, the steeper the angle. Like, I mean, if your angle is 25 degrees above the horizon, then it's going to be the GP of that star will be a lot further from you than if it's 60 degrees above the horizon. So that doesn't, I mean, like, how does that work on a flat Earth? What has flat Earth got to do with the sky? Because we know that with the sextant that the GP at 25 degrees above the horizon is a lot further away from you than 60 degrees above the horizon. So they're two very different distances. So if there's a differential in distances, it might just be purely down to the angle and the distance that you're sending the signal. You know.
Well, certainly in terms of how it's navigated, it's dependent on that.
Yeah, I mean, the lad was saying that, well, these differentials, these differentials that, like, him even saying that makes no sense because he hasn't confirmed that shooting a signal to the right of the moon won't get you the same signal as shooting it at the moon, you know. But just going off of the claim that there's different signal distances and returns or whatever, yeah, but that doesn't,
Right.
you know what I mean? That could be just down to angle, just like with the sextant.
Satellite orbits work on a flat Earth, right? It's like, no, there's no evidence that that is actually possible whatsoever. I've never seen any celestial light reflect any kind of signal ever. I've seen a lot of claims about it. I've seen setups that suggested that it did that, but no actual mechanical evidence, nothing to convince me that you could, yeah, as Brian said, point it slightly away from the celestial body and, oh, look, the signal output is now live changing. Oh, I pointed back. Oh, it's there again. Never seen any demonstration of that ever. And that radio's been around for a while. So has video.
Didn't Sleeping Warrior share a story about Bob from JPL with this issue?
Did you want it to be repeated? About?
Yeah, I think it's pertinent.
Okay. Well, based on pre-assumptions of heliocentric distances, they send out a signal, and the return signal is scoured through the data to see if it's there at the timings they expect at Jodrell Bank, and they don't see anything. Enter Bob from JPL, who says, I do see something. Look, it's here. Now, at first, according to the rendition of this story from themselves, they were sceptical of what Bob from JPL was saying he could see because they couldn't see it, and eventually he convinced them that they could see the return signal, so they published that they could see the return signal in the timings they were expecting. And my response to that, regardless of how nice the story is and how Bob from JPL manipulated the scenario to make it seem like they'd received a signal in their timings that they suggested, I'd say, where do they get the timings to look on that data at that specific amount of time? Oh, it's based on R. It's based on heliocentric rhetoric and distances to the sun that need R. Yeah, they're going to need R to look in that time frame. Why are they looking in that time frame? Well, because they're assuming Earth's a sphere with these distances. That's why they're looking at that particular time slot, so that they can say, oh, we definitely see it there. There it is, look. What's that? You don't see it? Oh, what? I can imagine Bob from JPL saying, what are you, idiots? Here it is. Convincing them.
Total emperor without clothing scenario, right? You had to convince them,
and then
it worked. They got convinced.
Second to that is that when it does bounce off of a spot that's not a celestial body, they call that ionospheric bouncing.
Huh.
Right.
Yeah. So would that
convenient?
Sorry, Solar.
But that's what, I thought that was going to be the link that was going to be step 2 by Brian at some point. Maybe that's what he's going to do now. We'll see.
Well, I don't believe for a moment that I can't say for definite, but with the research I did and that presentation I did on how the sun creates a pressure gradient, I don't see how the ionosphere could exist. But I could be wrong, right?
Well, it's a heliocentric invention that came about after I think it was a transatlantic.
Marconi, yeah, after Marconi,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were going to launch into.
Well, no, the whole claim. See, the claim of the ionosphere. I mean, when they're getting signals back, how many exactly the same distance signals are they getting from this ionosphere? If you understand what I mean, it's like, I mean, are they getting a signal back when they point a radio beam or whatever, some form of radio, whether it be long wave, short wave, whatever, at a celestial body, and they send it out, and they get a return signal to it. and they do it with another one, and they get a return signal to that. Did they then just, like, are they both the same return signals from the same claimed ionosphere, so the same distances, and they just then add in calculations of how far these celestial bodies have to be on the heliocentric model, if you understand what I mean? So they're starting off with just a basic bounce that's pretty much the same everywhere off of this supposed ionosphere, and then adding in calculations afterwards to say this bounce would go all the way to the sun, this one would go all the way to Polaris, or God knows, I don't know. You know, I don't know what they do, but I know whatever they do has to involve a lot of nonsense, because that's everything else they ever do.
Morning, fellas.
Hey, Chocolate.
Hey, Chocolate.
Going on?
Yo.
I'm back. It's been a nice stress-free day today. Members only live stream.
I have a question for Brian, since he seems to be informed about this signal bouncing situation. Have you ever manually done it yourself? Any sort of thing? Like, ooh, pointed, oh, there's a signal rebounds of some kind. Have you ever seen a real live mechanical demonstration of that? I never have.
I haven't, no. The only signals I know that bounce were ones where you evolve CB radio where you can talk, or signals like Wi-Fi or whatever. Outside of everyday stuff that we can use, I don't know of anything else as a definite.
All right. But, like, have you ever seen a demonstration or tried it yourself where you did actually point it up at the sky or whatever and test that? See what it looked like?
No, I haven't done anything like that, no.
All right. Seems to be very rare that people actually have done that. A lot of talk about it, though.
Well, the lad said a while ago, said radio. But radio is a whole spectrum. I mean, what radio? What signal?
Ham radio.
Yeah, but
ham
just saying
radio is
radio
mostly brought up.
Yeah, but my point is, just saying radio doesn't mean anything, because different signals are used for different things. Like a TV signals are different frequency than your average radio signal. Let's say radio is in the radio you listen to, music comes out of it. You know what I mean? There's different signals for different things. GPS is microwaves. You know, and microwaves are just one step away from laser. Because microwaves are like lasers are basically the origins of lasers is a microwave.
Can I bring up a concept since we're on concepts? This has got me thinking. So when they use the sextant to navigate, they use the map of the sky where the stars are at any given hour and in a second. It doesn't require batteries, electricity, just an instrument with two mirrors and a telescope. It's an angle measuring device, and we know it works within a half a mile. What's it to say that they've figured out how to do that electronically with everyone who has a phone or something that could act like a phone, where they know where you are based on the longitude, latitude of the star map over the Earth. And so as you're moving along in your car with your phone, they know where you are in relationship to the stars because they know where they are.
Yeah.
And so it's not bouncing anything. It's just where you are on the Earth at that precise second. They know exactly where the stars are on the Earth at that exact second. So if you're crossing one of the meridians, a degree mark or in between the degree mark, they say, oh, he's here, and that star is there, so that must mean he's here on the Earth. And that does take batteries and power, but it works. I mean, the Sextant is the original GPS.
Yeah, I agree. That's very likely the case. I mean, I'm open to any way that it works, because to me that makes far more sense than, as Nathan said earlier, putting things up there when there's no need for trying to find inventions to have up in the sky. You know, and balloon satellites might be just a ruse. They're probably just weather things. Who knows? But
no, they could even have them up there, but they're not in outer space. They're not orbiting. They can have them for a myriad of reasons, like you said.
I think it was Ben from Taboo Conspiracy brought a video where he showed. Was it Ben or from Taboo Conspiracy or journalist? In the past few months, where he showed Survivor Man, Les Stroud, and he is out in the wilderness somewhere. It looks like somewhere way up in northern Canada or somewhere. It could be anywhere. It could be a jungle. I don't know. But he's sitting there on a beach with trees behind him, and he has 2 or 3 of these big, huge, maybe 4 units with him. All these different sizes, supposed to be units for making communication. And he said he sent a text that was the best he could do over half an hour previous, and he hasn't even gone anywhere yet or something like that. He said there's no evidence that it's even bounced off anything yet or whatever. So he basically was saying that he's just carrying around weight with him that can't communicate with anybody when he's in the wilderness. So if he's in the wilderness all the time and he can't communicate with the outside world using all these units, and he says they're just dead weight with me most of the time, like they're just dead weight. Like he says, I'm not able to communicate with him. Where is all this GPS? You know, how come they're not bouncing off the satellites and telling me stuff and giving me, you know what I mean? How come, like he says, he's not getting able to even get simple communication going with a text, which is basically all a text is a Morse code, is an advanced Morse code basically. So,
well, I've shared that in the yachting videos that I've watched on these professional ships, as well as yacht charter ships, the ones that, you know, these billionaires own, and then they put it for charter as well. They are paying upwards of $50,000 a month for a signal over the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. I mean, at least this is what they claim in the video, and the guy gets on it and sends a text to communicate. So obviously, if the area where this Les Stroud is, there isn't a dense population who's going to make a venture like that profitable, why would they have coverage there? So if you want coverage, it's going to cost you. And they probably got some special means of, dangling something on the hot air balloon or a helium balloon, because obviously the militaries on the spot have to have it. So, but to say it's in orbit, no.
Well, if you look at it this way, if you're at sea, you can get signal because you can bounce signal off of airplanes and other ships. You can get signal that way. You can bounce signal, like use them as repeater stations, stuff like that. You can do that. And all the facilities are there for that system because they had to be, because the militaries and then the shipping companies, all that, they all need them, right? So all those things are there, right? Now, if they just are tracking wherever you are, like if they're doing their best just to track wherever you are in accordance with what stars are above you in the sky, then that would work just as work better than their claim of satellites, because there wouldn't be any need to be putting things up in any sky vacuum that they haven't even been able to, that can't exist. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's what I'm saying. But that doesn't negate the fact that they have a different use and also overlapping use of putting something that can be in the sky for 6 to 9 months or a year. I mean, Google's working on that solar plane that can stay up for 5 years at high altitudes, and they can bounce stuff off of that. So there's no problem with it. It's just within our world here. There is no outer space satellites. Obviously, we've proven that. So who cares if they've got solar-powered planes like Google has that could stay in the air for 5 years?
Well, if they needed things up in the sky and they already had satellites, right, why would they need balloons and solar planes?
Well, that's a different question. It's like, why do people still have an 8-track or a cassette player? It started off as that, And now the newer technology is going to make that like, wow, that's really old stuff now. Why do you need that when we got this?
Hold on a second. Do you know what an 8-track is, Brian?
Yeah, it's those big discs, those big, they're a big rectangular looking thing. You push it in. Is that the 8-track, is it? Or is it the one with the spools?
No, that's reel to reel.
That's reel to reel. The 8-track is the one you used to have them in cars years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're like a big mini disc.
No.
Yeah.
No. Well, the Americans called them cartridges, right? The closest thing we had was tape, but we had 2 tracks. They had 8 tracks, and it went in a loop, and you could skip your way on the display through the different tracks. It's just a different system, but it's like a tape. It was around when we had tape, compact cassette.
Yeah. My father had one. My father had one years ago.
Oh, it was we had one in the car here, and it was so big. My dad he had one with Tom Jones music. I remember it. Oh, Delilah, what have you done? Still to this day, I remember. Put in the Tom Jones 8-track. Okay, Dad.
Father used to have 8-track in the car and in the crib.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they had it for the consoles as well at home. We had a Magnavox with a reel-to-reel and a phonograph next to each other. But you could get them also with an 8-track as well. But we didn't have, well, since we had one in the car, we didn't need it.
I remember taking my record player apart, just being like, wow, fascinated by that thing. Like, wow, how the hell is music coming out of this thing?
I restored it. I restored that original Magnavox. I have it. I've got extra parts for it, and works still to this day.
I can feel myself melting into my chair as you talk about hi-fi. Oh, it's brilliant.
I also have about 3,000 albums.
What we have here is up in the upstairs. We have an old mixing desk. So one of the old ones with the stiff sliders, but with 40 places for jacks to go at the back of them.
Yeah, analog mixing desk. People still use those.
Oh yeah, but the old one. I'm not talking about the new one. I'm talking about an old one, a proper old one.
Okay. Old one, yeah, okay. Old mixing desk.
Yeah, it's the one you see in Doctor Strangelove as they bomb everything.
Have you used it? Have you used it, Brian? Is it something you're familiar with?
Years ago, I would know about them, but I didn't use that one for a long time. But I did use it years ago when my father had it set up.
I only ask because it's one of those things that I've recently been watching lots of videos about production, and one of the things that a guy I covered on this show, I don't know if you remember me covering him, a guy called Glenn. Anyway, he would say, if you've been to school for audio, you don't know anything. You might as well have not gone. You've wasted your money. You don't know anything. And a lot of the people who write into him say the same thing. I've done 3 years of audio college, so therefore I know absolutely nothing. Please, can you help me with a compressor? It's things like that. But what I did learn was the audio chain and the order that things would go through when you're going into a desk analog. Although when I learned, there was a certain amount of digital. Not that matters. We were recording to ADAT. But anyway, but that aside, it was an analog situation, and there was a certain chain of command, if you will. If this before that, then that. You've got to know the order of things that they go in. But my assumption when I started doing this, and I'm only mentioning this because the pre-show was all about how the show was running and how I set it up, because typically the 25 minutes it takes me just to get the show in a position to start, that doesn't take into account all of the hours and hours I spend trying to figure out how to get it to sound better or sound good. And one of the things that I didn't realise, I should have done, it's bloody obvious, is that when you're putting in filters and compressors and limiters and expanders and all those things into OBS, the chain is exactly the same as it would be in an analog scenario. In other words, if this box, then that box, the end result is Y. But if that box, then this box, the end result is X. Those order of commands still ran in exactly the same way. But when I learned about it, it was about 25 whatever years ago. It was a hell of a long time ago. So even if I had have remembered it and it was fresh in my mind, I wouldn't have linked it to the fact that when it's in the digital domain, the order of things is still just as important. There we go. Just thought it'd be interesting for you because you've got an analog desk. Maybe you've had similar experiences or learned about how to use it. I don't know.
I know a bit about how to use a desk, like, but mostly I only use digital through DAWs, DAWs, which are digital audio workstations. Basically, you're making music digitally, and you have a digital desk, basically. You know, a digital desk is not a whole lot. You have more options, but not really. You still have a high, mid, and low.
Oh
But
yeah, you
have a lot
still
more options,
if you're mixing, you're still mixing, right? You're still just adjusting EQ settings to make things balance up nicely. And yeah, it's just a DAW is something I've never had to use. And if you want to consider OBS a DAW, then yeah, this is a bit of a stretch. But it does do similar functions in terms of the the chain of the audio. And I've never had to use a DAW because I don't produce music, and the way I edit my videos are quick and dirty on an iPad. So I've never had to use one. But I would, other than having a visual representation of what you're doing on your desk in a DAW, right? Because it shows you all the waveforms as you're chopping it up. Well, on a desk itself, when you've got all the music recorded down on your source, and then you're just pushing up and changing levels and EQ on the desk itself, only to then go into something you're recording it to, it's essentially the same process other than it's recorded there and then in the DAW, right? It's just there and then it's there with the waveform, and you can see it.
Yeah, you get more visuals. And you can do things like, I can zoom in to make sure exactly what, to make sure nothing is popping above into the reds, anything like that. I can do all that kind of stuff. I can make sure, I can see really finitely what's happening in that kind of way if I want that. So you have more options, you have more visuals, which are it's still essentially the same thing. It has to be.
Indeed, but there's 3 steps to it, right? Anything you record, if it's going out to an audience, it's going to essentially go through 3 steps. The first step is what they call tracking, getting it down. Tracking is recording. So tracking something is me or my musicians. In this case, it's my panel. You're like my instruments. So therefore, the recording bit is getting your sound into the system as cleanly as possible, or mic sound into the system as cleanly as possible. That's step 1. Then you've got mixing, which you're talking about when you talk about doing EQ changes, where you're leveling up all of the different instruments so they all sit in a nice harmonious balance. That's mixing. And the same applies for me. I've got to balance up all of the different guests in all the different, chat hosts. So in this case, it's Google, and it's Discord, and it's me, and sometimes it's Skype. Well, I've got to balance up all of those different people that are talking so that they all roughly come out at the same level, so it's not irritating to listen to. Now, that step is often just completely ignored by people who run similar shows to me. It bugs the hell out of me when people are all over the place in volume. But that's mixing, just so I don't go too far off on a tangent. Last step is mastering. I had a guy called Streaky I watch, who's a mastering engineer. He summarised what he does. He's like, you send it to me, and I want to do as little as humanly possible. I just want to turn it up. That's all I do. I turn it up. So he's sort of boiling down what mastering is. It's trying to get, he's adding compression and he's doing various things to try and get the output gain as high as possible so that, it sits at the same level as everything else that's playing on Spotify, for example. Well, for me, it's the same. I've got to get it to the same level so that in terms of the energy that comes out of the speakers on your iPad or on your phone or on your computer, it's roughly the same as whatever advert you've watched before or whatever video you've watched before. So you're not having to mess around with your volume. Now, it's standardized. In other words, YouTube bring it down. But how you get to that is quite important. But that's the mastering stage. So you've got tracking, mixing, and mastering. And I have to effectively apply all 3 to get it to the end result that is consumable. Yeah? But I've also got to present a show and debate with people and, all the other crap that goes along with actually being on the show, along with setting and forgetting all of those things so that you don't have all sorts of horrible nastiness while I'm involved with talking or doing something or welcoming a guest or whatever it may be that takes my attention away from watching all this crap bouncing up and down and seeing if it's going into the red. And the last thing, I'll end here. The last thing I actually pay attention to is me. So over the last week or so, or maybe a bit longer since I've had a new mic, I've actually been making recordings, sending them to YouTube and playing them back to myself to see how I sound. because I can't do it during the show. Even with zero latency monitoring, it distracts me so much that I can't then function on other things. So as a result, I've started to now pay attention to my own sound, and hopefully I'll be leveled up nicely amongst everyone else as well. But it's a difficult process. I mean, I hope this long, drawn-out, behind-the-scenes version of FED will give, when it goes out to the public, which it probably will eventually, people some appreciation of just what's involved. You know, I know Neil has said in the past you just push buttons, but, you know, I'm actually presenting...
Whoa, I never said that.
But I don't.
I was just going to come in and say so much for pushing buttons, right, 10th man?
That was me. I take credit for pushing buttons.
I totally understand Nathan's plight, because I would be strict about the audio too. People coming in and shouting down their mics, having the mic an inch away from their mouth, stuff like that. Back off your mic, turn down the gain. You know what I mean? You're like, every time someone speaks, they're louder than everyone else. Can't have that. You know what I mean? You don't hear that on a talk show. Everyone is of equal volume, but they're all of audible volume. All that aspect is important.
I just want to know if Nathan denies pushing buttons.
That's all I do. Push buttons, right? Okay, I get it.
Thank you. I'm vindicated.
You are vindicated.
I'll take credit. I'll take credit for the good things, but if it's something bad, I didn't do it.
I'll take those.
I'll take those. Just to speak to Brian's point, though, yeah, that's tracking, and that's a trick. I didn't think about it, but it's so bloody obvious. But some of the tracking engineers explained that their skill isn't necessarily in setting up the mics, which is obviously their main skill. But they're like, no, my job is to be a people person, to be able to communicate with the musician and say, don't cup the mic, back off the mic 2 inches. No, you aren't using good mic technique. So when Tommy came in the other day, I had that in the back of my mind where I'm like, just tell him to back off his mic. Don't sit here fiddling with the bloody buttons, pressing buttons. Just tell him, back off your mic. You're miles too close to it. It's distorting to all hell. And when he started to get back up on it, I'm like, just back off your mic again. Why not? I can't have very limited control when the mic's not mine and I'm not literally the guy setting it up. That's all down to the guest. But what I can do is say, look, just back off your mic. Because then what Tommy had to offer on that show was good. You know, I can actually present it to an audience. Whereas if it's distorted to all hell, it's never going to get edited out. It's never going to make it to a separate video. It's never going to be listened to when it's on the live stream or the Uncut show. So it's like, no, just tell him. You know, because it would piss him off, right? If he came back to listen to himself after the fact, it's like, I'm so distorted. You know, wouldn't you prefer if that was you to be told, just back off your mic so that when you listen to yourself back with your good point that you're trying to make, you're actually audible?
Yeah, funny, just how much I'm saying. People don't realise when they get a microphone, they instantly they think they have to get. It's just a natural thing. I did it when I was young. You know, you just want to get as close as possible. I think you have to shout into it. You know, that kind of a thing. People presume that's what you have to do. And you end up putting more effort into talking into the mic than they need to. You just need to talk and be within range of the mic, within correct range. You're not going to be. If you're too far away, you're going to be coming across as a reverb. If you're too close, you're going to be already sounding like this. You know, you don't want that. A story on that. I went with an uncle of mine and another friend of ours down to a place to watch some friends of mine who were fighting. They were doing the MMA and they were fighting. And I missed almost all of the whole tournament and the main, my friend's fight. I missed the whole lot because I was downstairs in this hotel instead of upstairs in there where they're having this big thing happening. I was downstairs in the bar because there was a guy playing music there. He was playing he was doing songs like Stevie Wonder, Superstitious, and all these kind of things. And he was playing saxophone, trumpet, and flute. I'm not sure about harmonica, but he definitely was playing those three. And he was so good. His miking technique was so good. The saxophone was never louder than his voice. His voice was never louder than the flute. Every time when there was a point when he needed to blast out the sax a bit or the trumpet a bit, he'd pull back just the right amount from the mic. And it was just like, this guy is ace. And I missed the whole thing because I only wanted to be down there drinking coffee, listening to that guy. You know, so I understand the pain that you deal with that.
Got a photo of me with Stevie Wonder.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's won't shock anybody. He's a hi-fi fan. So when I was in that trade, there was a show every year there's a show, although there wasn't during COVID, at Las Vegas, and he was there looking at equipment with his dogs and his bodyguards.
Excellent.
There you go.
So his dogs were looking at the equipment?
Well, I only went up to him because he was being quite rough with them. What he'd done is he'd got the lead like quite tight, like round his wrist, and he was swinging this dog round and round his head. And I was like, "Whoa, Stevie, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm just having a look around."
Oh. Terrible.
That's terrible.
I have actually got a picture with me and him. It wasn't a joke or wasn't part of a build-up. That is actually true.
Well, I must concede, Brian knew more about the sax tent than I did. He found out before me.
I actually I ran into a couple of people over the years, and I know other people that ran into people who were famous, whatever. But I was some years ago when they were making Braveheart here in Ireland. Braveheart was being made in a place, so a good portion of it was being made in a place not too far away from where I'm from. And I was cycling along, and I saw this guy walking towards me. The November day, this guy wasn't that very tall. He had this hair going back over his head and down along his back. Now I have bad eyesight. I always have bad eyesight. So I find it hard to define what someone looks like until they're up close to me, especially in the nighttime. But I see this guy walking towards me as I'm cycling towards him, and he's looking at me, and he spots that I spot him. And it's November in Ireland, and this guy has a tan. And I'm kind of going, this guy's not from here. And this is back at the time when there was really no one here that wasn't from here. You know, back in the early 90s, when the only people in Ireland were basically people from Ireland. And I said, this guy is not from here. You know, I said something familiar about this guy, and it wasn't triggering with me. And just as I came up close to him, I just gone past him. He gave me a nod, kind of in a hello. I said, "Well, how are you doing?" As I was going past him, and I caught who it was. It was Mel Gibson, right? It was Mel Gibson. It has to be Mel Gibson, because this guy, he didn't want me to kind of. I didn't get it at first, but I didn't catch on at first. But what he didn't want was me pointing to everyone. There was other people a good bit over from us, but there was a good few people saying, "Hey, everybody, there's Mel Gibson," because that's what probably happens in America, right? But that doesn't really happen in Ireland. But it was only just as I went past him, it triggered what I should have done. I said, "No," I said, "you left it too late," because I thought it was him, and I went, "Yeah, it's Mel Gibson," and he said hello to me, and it's at that point I should have done this. What I should have done is, instead of saying hello to him and cycling on, I should have cycled over to him and said, "If anyone asks, you didn't see me." Cycle off.
Exactly. You missed an opportunity.
Absolutely.
I got one for you.
My eyesight let me down.
That look you described, I bet, is something that a lot of celebrities are really familiar with, because obviously you see them in full makeup, men and women, when they're on their movie sets, and often in various different costumes because they're characters, right? Well, you don't see them as that character when they're out and about. They're just a normal dude, and they're not going to, I'm not saying they look rough, but generally speaking, they're not going to look like you would expect to a certain degree, which is why you would look and go, "I know you from somewhere, but where is it?" Because they're not looking like, I can't name, looking like Braveheart, right? So you're not going to necessarily immediately recognise them. So you're going to screw your face up in just that right way that person is so familiar with. Yeah, you know who I am, but you don't know who I am, do you?
I'll tell you somebody who you know right away. William Shatner. We were eating at this fancy restaurant. This is when I was running with a bunch of. This is when I was on the other side of the wall. Let's put it this way. This is all BC, before Christ. Anyway, this guy's sister says, look, there's William Shatner over there. Oh, I want his autograph. So me, being the brave guy that I am, I said, I'll go get you his autograph. I walk over to the table, pull out a knot of money. I had $100 bill. So I said, Mr. Shatner, see that girl over there? She really wants your autograph, but she's a little shy. So he sounded just like James T. Kirk. He looked at me. He said, it's against the law to deface government property.
Say that again.
Oh,
I missed the last bit. He said it's against the law, what?
Against the law to deface government property. I said, really? Is it against the law to sign this card? And I pulled out a card from the restaurant, and he signed it. But then I went back to the table, and then I feel bad about it now. I literally abused him. I was berated him.
You didn't berate him.
I was like, this is pretty good, Scotty. Who's the chef here? And I was doing all characters from freaking Star Trek. He got up with his family and he left.
I don't think that's true. If that's true, DITRH is in a lot of trouble because he often writes "Earth is flat" on notes.
Earth is flat on notes.
Right. I just want to say I don't think it was
money.
Yeah, banknotes.
I just want to. I was a little bit waiting for you guys. Wow. I was waiting for you guys to finish. Hey, Brian, I don't think it was your eyesight that kept you from approaching Mel Gibson. You just needed a brave heart.
Yeah.
When you said it was filming somewhere near you. By near you, you mean Scotland?
No, because Braveheart was filmed in Ireland.
Not everything is Irish.
At the time.
You don't have to take credit for everything.
But the way William Shatner said that to me, you would think he was James T. Kirk from the Starship Enterprise.
It's because he's not acting. That's the problem with Shatner, right?
I know.
That is how he is. So when you see him talking like this, that is just how he is. That's how he is. So he's not really doing much. Just reading the lines how he speaks.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
It's one of those actors
Scotty, they put too much ketchup on this burger. I was yelling a whole bunch of stuff, and like after 10 minutes, him and his whole family just got up and left. I felt bad.
Some wise guy getting him a hard time.
I'm sure he's used to it.
What was he like in Boston Legal?
Was he in Boston Legal?
Yeah, him and what's his name? James Spader.
Okay.
They were partners in a law office. I think it went for a few seasons.
Oh shit! I remember that show. I do remember that.
Yeah, William Shatner, and they had all sorts of big star guests on every other episode because it was William Shatner, of course. It was quite funny too, I think, apparently. I don't remember watching much of it, though.
I stepped away. Neil, what did William Shatner say to you, or did he say something to you?
He said, it's against the law to deface government property.
And you said, damn it, Jim, I'm a tradesman, not a criminal.
What was that?
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Well, that's what the response was from the doctor on the Star Trek all the time.
And that's why I wouldn't do that.
Star date 23.9 rounded off to the nearest decimal point.
I think William Shatner would find that very annoying if he did that.
I think he'd laugh his head off.
Hey, he says science is fiction. He's a big mouthpiece on that.
He was asked the difference between science fiction and science fact. And his reply was, there isn't any. There's no difference.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I've also seen him do, I assume it was a TV show, but Russian Vids trimmed it out, where he's broadcasting back from a trip to space. I think it's pre-69. I don't know for certain, but pretty old. And he's broadcasting back, having got up to space, and they're asking him what it looks like. What's the view like from there? And he says, Earth is flat. I can see all of it. It's all flat.
What? Do you have a clip of that?
No.
Holy shit.
Drop Russian Vids a
Saying
line.
Shatner said that?
Yes, in a televised piece. So it's not like him being interviewed. It's part of the script, and it's him up in space. He's just made the journey up there. He's broadcasting back to the people below about what it looks like, and he just says it's all flat. Earth is flat. It's all flat from up here. I can see for a long distance it's flat. Something like that. I can't remember verbatim, but that is what he says.
That's amazing. I'd love to see the video.
Do you guys not keep up with Russian Vids? I love Russian Vids. But that's where you get these nuggets from. You know, the truth in plain sight, that's what it's all about.
I am familiar with that piece you're talking about, Nathan. Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what it was for someone to cross-reference and find it, unfortunately, but hopefully, you know, there'll be a commenter or someone that'll say, oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. It's here in this Russian Vids video, although I don't know where he got it from. Hopefully, and that'll start the trail off. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to him, but I haven't seen that.
What I like about Russian Vids is his thumbnail, because it's They Live. It's Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper,
They
yeah.
Live. I watched They Live recently, and They Live is better in a lot of ways than The Matrix. Because I watched The Matrix recently as well, and They Live is older, and it's maybe less money gone into it, obviously, for production, but it was really good. The fight that Roddy Piper had with Keith David. Is the Keith David the other actor? The guy, his friend. I always liked, he was in The Thing as well. I always liked him in movies. And the fight they had, he really, like, it was like, it must have gone about 7 minutes.
The
and
brawl.
Eventually, yeah,
right?
the big
brawl with his friend, like, no, you're going to put them on. No, I'm not going to put them on.
Okay, hold on. Let Brian finish. Hold on. We're talking about the scene where he's trying to get the glasses. So if you're, spoiler alert, if you're unaware of the movie, there's glasses that let you see the psychopathy of the real world. And he's trying to get his friend, the Roddy Piper character, is trying to get his black friend to put these glasses on, and a fight ensues because he doesn't want to. Because he doesn't, and the black guy doesn't understand that the effect of putting the glasses on is to open his eyes to the reality of the world he's in. And not knowing that that's why he wants to put the glasses on him, he just thinks the guy's attacking him or, you know, trying to do something he doesn't want to do. So they end up in a big fight over it until he gets the glasses on him.
Yeah, it's really good because it's like he's really trying to show him, and it's like trying to force it. And this is what happens when you force it. But when he did show him, like when he was trying to force it, he really had to try hard to force it. Like, you have to see this, you have to see this. The man's like, I don't have to see it, I don't care. Like, you're gone crazy, whatever. And it's like,
he was scared.
Yeah, he did eventually get him to see it, and your mom was like, what the hell? So it's like, and what was really good was all the people that you get to see then, all the little robotic alien people that you get to see.
Aliens. Okay.
Well, whatever.
I think that's how we are.
No, they're Democrats.
Hold on. I've made a video about this about 5 years ago, about my interpretation of what They Live represents. But we'll get to your aliens if you like in a minute. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Well, yeah. Well, whatever you want to call them, the different ones, right? The ones that the ones that were in control, and well, as soon as they realized someone could see them and their plan and who they are, like as soon as you could see them, they were like, we've got someone that can see us. They had little watches on them. We've got someone that can see us. Like, we've got someone who does non-believer. We've got a non-believer. You know what I mean? That's what I said to them. That's what I heard. We've got a globe non-believer.
Sounds familiar.
A globe non-believer? No. See, I see the Roddy Piper and the other guy, the black guy characters, as anti-flat earthers in this respect. So especially the black guy, because even after the fact, he doesn't want to be. He has no desire to roll down the hill, does he? That's what the fight's all about. So it's them bracing against something that they don't want to see. Well, that isn't very much like us, who are very open to it. It's more like the anti-flat earthers. Now, I see the alien, in quotes, characters as the psychopaths. The people who run the world are psychopaths. That's the people who rise to the top. They're the cream. We're the milk. They sit on top of us and control us. And they get there by stampling on everybody because they don't have any empathy and couldn't care less. They'll just get to where they want to be. And the best of them and the most intelligent of them are the ones that run the world. And that is the metaphor, the mask, if you will, of their devious nature, and they're not giving a crap about anybody, is subtly hinted at in one scene that I focused on in that particular dissection of the movie, although it wasn't comprehensive. There's a scene where the guy who's a psychopath alien type character is talking to his friend, and Roddy Piper's watching them. I think it's a pharmacist, and the guy has just been given the other guy's promotion, and he's like, they promised me that promotion. And the psychopath character's like, yeah, well, I don't care. It's like he's talking to his mate about how he's just nicked the promotion that he was supposed to be getting. But the psychopath character's like, yeah, you'll do better next time. Just keep on trying. In other words, he's just stamped on you, and now he's just, just psychopathic behaviour, in essence. And that's how I interpret it anyway, because the world is run by psychopaths, and certainly the concentration of the aliens gets more and higher as you go towards the high society, culminating in the bank being full of them and in wanting to blow the bank up. Well, when I say that the anti-flat earthers are the people that we should be scared of because they'd be the ones who are pitchforks and torches marching on NASA and wherever else they think they need to march on because they're so pissed off and angry, and it, if it was announced on the news, they'd be the ones shooting up the bank by metaphorical equivalent, not us. Hence I saying that the Roddy Piper character and the black guy, I've got to stop calling him the black guy. What's his character name? Or is that gone?
Keith Davis. Keith Davis. Keith Davis is the man name.
The Keith Davis character. I see them more as anti-flat earthers as opposed to more like us. Because at the end of it, we're not shooting up a bank, are we? We're not, marching on NASA with pitchforks.
I don't know though.
Hold on, that dude was excellent in To Live and Die in L.A.
Yeah. No, he's brilliant. Yeah,
He
Keith
was
Davis
the
was a
counterfeiter.
great actor. He was in the Thing as well. He was in John Carpenter's The Thing. Really good. I really liked him in movies.
Nah, he wasn't in The Thing.
He was in John Carpenter's The Thing.
No, you got the wrong guy. Look it up.
Keith Davis was in that. Sure of it. Either way, I'm pretty sure it was him, Keith Davis. Was in The Thing.
Mixing them up.
With Kurt Russell.
You're thinking of Morgan Freeman.
You're mixing them up, bro. I'm going to look it up right now.
You look it up now then. But
hold on, let's just draw a line under it. It's looked it up. It's Will Smith.
Oh, it's that black guy. Come on.
Yeah, the generic term.
I'll confess. It was me.
It was chocolate all the time.
It was Lawrence Fishburne. I'm certain of it.
But Nathan, your sound system.
Actually, Brian is right. Keith David was in the 1982 The Thing.
Boom. Neil, what are you doing?
No, I'm checking if he was in To Live and Die in L.A. I might have it wrong.
Okay, whatever.
Your retraction. Anyway, Nathan, you pick up my fan sound in the man cave when I was there. And Brian said Keith David 3 times, and you can't get the name right. What's going on?
It's going to blame the Irish.
Yeah, I could blame the accent.
Okay.
Is that what that was? Because that was loud the other day when I heard it. I was like, what the hell is that behind tent? Where is he? It was loud, man. I heard it.
No, that's something
I'm thinking,
else.
damn, that must
happened,
be what it sounds like. Sorry.
When it happened, 10th was like, I'm somewhere that's noisy. Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm talking about him just having a desk fan on.
It was a ceiling fan. It was a ceiling fan, and he picked it up.
That's the whole point of spending
I can't believe I got that wrong.
spending literally thousands on this room. That's the whole point.
Yeah, I've gone back. I've listened to shows way back in the day, and I'm like, God damn! Every time I unmute, it sounds like there's World War III happening behind me. I'm like, shit, I'm always at work. Sounds insane.
Yeah, you're better off dealing with it, just not grabbing the mic, like Brian was saying earlier. When it's like, no, if you can hear the background noise, that you can't do anything about it. Putting it closer to your mouth really won't make much difference. Just leaving it alone means you don't get the cracklies, and you just have to deal with the background noise. If you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah.
Just on that movie. Sorry,
Nah, you're good, man. Go ahead.
sorry, I kind of jumped in prematurely. Just on that movie, They Live, I don't agree with you, Nathan. I would view Roddy Piper and Keith David and some of the other people they were involved with, I would view them as the flat earthers in 2015. And I would view the people who went along with the psychopaths, the aliens in the movie, let's just say, the people went along with them, even though they knew that they shouldn't do that and it wasn't true and it wasn't honest, and went along with the lie. I would view them as the anti-flat earthers because they should be, they now have the information, they should be on our side, but no, they stick with.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. Just contextually, I've never been
What
able
about
to do
the guy that knew?
Just 1 second. You said you interjected when Chocolate was talking prematurely. Do you know what another word for an interjection is?
Interruption.
An ejaculation. So.
No, it's not.
Look it up. So that was a contextually correct premature ejaculation.
Oh my goodness,
Christ.
that's terrible. They have to change that then.
Yeah, we
What I
went
like
through this before because Nathan was saying ejaculation a couple times. People are like, why do you keep saying that? He's like, that's what it means. We've been through this before. Hilarious.
Hey, and They Live. What about that guy that was he knew who they were, but he got a high-ranking position.
Yeah. He reminded me of Randy.
It's in Sherlock Holmes. If you read Sherlock Holmes, it'll have Sherlock Holmes discussing something, and then it'll say Watson ejaculated, and then state what his outburst is. So when somebody is talking and somebody just talks straight through the top of them, whatever they have said, if you were to put it in quotes, so it's like, you don't know anything about the sphere Earth, he ejaculated.
Boy, then I'm the biggest premature ejaculator around.
Out of context, that sounds so crazy.
Fun times. This has been a really nice show for me. I'm going to do more members-only live streams because this has been so relaxing. I can't think of a time I've been more chill doing this show. I thought
there's more
Go on.
Yeah, I said there's more e-words. There's e-books now. So this is going to go crazy soon.
Huh?
Yeah.
Huh? Can I get any higher? Huh?
What?
What?
Well, I just don't know why a mechanic would say ejaculated when he's lifting a car. Come on.
Oh, that's terrible. That wasn't worth the wait.
Oh, come on.
I can see. I can see Ted looking around the room to figure that in.
Jack.
Jack. Oh yeah, Jack. Car Jack.
Hey, you want to lift?
Oh, come on, stop it. That wasn't bad.
Nice recovery.
I do feel elevated now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're in eHarmony now.
eHarmony.
That's absolutely terrible. The worse they get, the more funny it is.
Am I dating myself with that statement?
Oh, please stop. Please, please.
You'll definitely find someone who
Am I
shares
dating
your interest.
myself with that? Jeez.
Did you hear
That
what
was
I
a
said?
layered one, bro. That was good.
Yeah, terrible as well. Getting it to be layered and terrible is quite a feat.
I said to you, Tench, you'll
True.
definitely find someone who shares your interest.
Yes.
Do you get that?
That was no. I'm sorry. I'm still recovering from the laughter. I'll say it again.
It's after going past the point now, because when I said it,
Okay, I'm
before
sorry.
I said it,
I'm sorry.
you'll definitely find someone who shares your interest.
I'm trying to get the E in there. How's the E in there?
Dating, eHarmony.
No, I know, but it's the word like.
I don't know what the E.
Nah, that was a hard fail for you too, bro.
He said you didn't get it. No wonder no one got it.
Okay, I'll back off.
I started the show thinking it would be stressful because I was doing it behind the scenes just for something different to do and an excuse to, if it's members only, if I make a big mistake and haven't got anything to say, there's loads of dead air. It's not as important. That sounds terrible because it's members only. It should be the best of the best, right? They're paying for it. But by the same token, I'm driving it. And instead of that, this is, like I say, been such a lovely show. We're talking about reminiscing about how we've disproved the sphere, disproved any measurements, used navigation to prove it's flat, the progression over time, talked about hi-fi, talked about the show, how it gets produced, different people and their aspects within the show. It's been brilliant. It's been so nice. I'm definitely going to do more members-only live streams.
It's been so nice.
Don't forget our review of 2019, 2020, and 2021. So 2019, surveying, no drop. It was the year for that. And 2020 was definitely Black Swan. 2021 seems to be the Sextant. And lo and behold, 2022 is coming.
Yeah, I think it might be GPS.
Wasn't that part of 2019?
No, it was with the surveying, but I reckon that with the Sextant, now that we're learning more about the Sextant, I reckon that we're onto something here. With the chocolate, I don't know if you heard, but we were talking about the concept that they are using the stars as the satellites, that they are trilaterating your position, but with the use of stars, known stars and their positions in the sky in accordance with where you are.
Sure,
and that's GPS.
They're called lighthouses in the sky. What are lighthouses used for?
Navigation, to bring you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Or keep you away from where you don't need to be.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I reckon that needs a bit more thought, because I know about the system they use with the ECEF system they use with GPS, and that's the same. It's basically it's just, if you think about it, if you look at it, it'd be basically the use of declination. The declination is more like the coordinate system in the sky, yeah.
Well, if the phone is the electronic sextant, the stars, as they move over, say, zero mark for time is, of course, Greenwich. So the whole point is, every time the bodies in the sky move over and in between meridians, they know where they are. And this is how they know everything, because it is a calendar and a clock, just as God said, for times and seasons. And they figured out, okay, so we can do it and use it for that. So here we got a phone, and you can go on Map or one of the map apps, and it shows your car moving on the road as you're watching it. I mean, really? Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine there were no stars at all. Imagine not being able to navigate anywhere because you don't know where the hell you are. You're just on on a piece of land with nothing to gauge where you are, right? So yeah, that makes sense to me that they're using something that's already known to be used to navigate.
Yeah,
Put a
Nick,
different word on it.
that's you lived up to your calling. That's a good summary. I mean, if you put a longitude latitude Mercator map and you have this electronic device and you zoom into where you are on that map and you're in a car moving, well, they know the stars above you, where they are in relationship to the longitude latitude as your car is moving.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see. Sorry, chocolate.
He was just agreeing.
But,
No, you're good.
yeah, but he does a very good agreeing, so I don't want to get in the way of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, he does it with style. But see, I don't see why not. I mean, just as Chocolate says, like, I mean, why not? Why would you need to have things floating around up there in orbit, floating on, when you already have a perfectly good coordinate system and a navigation system before any of that, and all you have to do is digitalize it. I mean,
Yeah.
and as we said, with people like Les Stroud, the Survivor Man, he had these 3 or 4 units with him, and he said he couldn't get any contact anywhere, and he's sitting on a beach with trees behind him in the middle of nowhere. So I can get what I need here, but I won't get what I need where he was, or maybe in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Well, and if you think about it, you don't even need to shoot anything in the sky, because they know where that star is over the real estate you're on by time.
Yeah.
So really, they're just getting
or night.
Yeah. So they're just using time and where you are. Well, of course, you got the electronic device that shows them where you are, but they already know what star is over your head or what star is near you to triangulate you to that spot. They don't even have to shoot anything up.
Well, yeah, if you think about trilateration, right, like the GPS receiver is supposedly receives 4 and more microwave signals, and you're timed then on your position is given to you. This is the claim by let's just say by the strength of the signals, right? So I mean, if you look at the sextant, like if you let's say 5 different stars that they're using for your GPS or your phone to connect to or whatever, then they're going to be at different distances from you. So all you have to do is time the distances and say, right, this one is like, it's not like they know where the stars are in the sky at that exact moment, so they know right here. They just trilaterate your position. By like this star is 60 degrees away from him. This star is 80 degrees. This other star is 34 degrees. This other one is 28 degrees. So they know where you are because they know where the stars are all the time. Why? Because the stars never change.
Well, yeah, that's why that guy told me thousands of years in the past or forward, we know where they're going to be. Nathan, I got a slide on trilateration versus triangulation. Can you put it up? It's a Master B.
Yep.
Yeah, trilateration versus triangulation. Let's read triangulation first. Uses known angles to calculate unknown distances. Now, trilateration uses known distances to pinpoint precise locations. Isn't that what we're talking about?
Yeah, your distance from whatever stars.
Known distances to pinpoint precise locations.
Yeah, I mean, if that isn't what GPS is, then that is what GPS should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you may be calling 2022, Brian. I love it.
Yeah, I think GPS 2022, because I don't know, because we know they use Cartesian, 3-dimensional Cartesian, and they do convert to long latitude, longitude, With the ECEF system, they can also convert to what they call spherical coordinates. But spherical coordinates are just all based on all the zeniths mathematically going to the center of the pre-assumed sphere. That's what spherical coordinates basically come from. But basically, if they already there's already a system in place. Why put up satellites into a place when there's already natural satellites, regardless of what they are?
Indeed. And with that, I'm going to say another massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. So this isn't actually the end, because I'm going to show you how I round out this show after the show has ended. In other words, once the curtain's fallen, I don't actually stop. I still do a few other bits and bobs, but I thought I might as well share that with you, as it's then contemporaneous, if that's the right word, and you can see the entirety of the process, including actually getting videos from the recording to my second channel or to you as Nathan Oakley 1980 channel members. Also, I wanted to say a massive thank you to all of you who are Nathan Oakley 1980 channel members for supporting me by joining. So it really is greatly appreciated. But with that, I'm going to transition across back to my main screen, as you saw it just before we ended the live show. As you can see, there are still all of the guests still lined up as I do the outro, and they're chit-chatting away currently in the after show. Although typically people will move them, so that one of the mods would typically be moving everybody from the after show to the ever after show, which is this underneath here, and that's where people will typically hang out in Discord after these shows end. And the people who are in the G Plus panel will also hang around, although for a while they were going to get booted because I kept on ending the call. Whereas although they're chatting away happily, they can't actually hear me. And
then I held this thing in the iPhone and matched it perfectly.
I typically don't say goodbye. I just sort of round out as the outro's rolling and disappear from this call, and then close down this particular piece of software. So with that, I'll just show you precisely what I'm dealing with once the curtain has fallen. So let's find my projector again. So you can see what we saw as we were starting off this show with everything that I had set up, and in this area where I've just closed down that window, that's where I had the live stream chat, although that is still there. I typically close that down as well, so might as well show what I'm talking about. All of you who were in the actual live stream part when it was live stream, big shout out to all of you. Obviously I have to close that down, along with closing down my whatever you call that hood, what do they call it, cam, and then getting rid of this particular part of the website. Then I will actually close down this, but I'm going to stop talking so they don't hear me, as I don't want this particular piece of software to have me muted and deafened when I come back to it and reload it for next show. So I'll do that if I go quiet, it's just so I don't disturb them as they're chatting away. So that's that. That's them being dumped. Obviously, I'll get rid of them. Now, I'm going to move some of these pieces of software. Let's just close Skype onto my other window and then transition across so you can see what I then do over here. Again, this, if you've tuned out and you're not that interested, that's fine. That's cool. It's all good. But I do want to have a full show where you can see precisely what I'm doing. What do I need? I need to go to television screen. There we go. Okay, so from here, what I would do prior to this shutting down of Voicemeeter Banana is open up all of the lines so that when I reset the desk for the next show, they're all reset to 0. And then I would go into this menu and actually shut down Voicemeeter. Obviously, if I do that now, you won't be hearing the rest of this behind the scenes. So there we go. The next thing I have to do is actually upload the video. So typically, if I'd have ended the show, let's just not grab that. This, which is my OBS stream, would allow me to go into my recordings, bring up all of my lists of thousands and thousands and thousands of Flat Earth debate, and transfer it across. This that you can see here, MKV, is the type of format I use so that if the computer had a complete power cut, it wouldn't actually lose the show that I'm recording currently, and then it remuxes that particular recording into an MP4 once the stop button's pressed. So again, obviously I'm not going to do that, otherwise you wouldn't get to see any of this. Other than that, I have to shut down my webcam, or at least the controls for the webcam. It'll still keep it running. I was just thinking to myself, will it actually close it down if I do want to go back to a webcam to say another thank you, which probably won't. The other thing I have to do is shut down this, which is my wallpaper engine. So over on the projection screen, if I just transition back to that, you've got that radar type screen, which I use because it's got this quasi chat thing that floats up the side, which is great just to keep some movement on screen when it's just better than a static picture. Anyway, that has to be shut down, which I will do now. I'm kind of going through the motions of what I actually do. In case you're wondering, this is literally what I would do. And then I'll change the desk settings. So I'll just show you what I mean by that. So over here in sound, we've got the settings that I use for the show, which is Voicemeeter. And that is everything going out on Voicemeeter. So that's the primary output source. Up here is the actual source it's coming through. But what I do when I finish the show is set this to the default device, and that will give me normal digital output from my computer, so it can then function for the family to use as a music box or a movie box or whatever it is they're going to use, and it just clicks into whatever format, so stereo or Dolby Digital or DTS or whatever, if it's a movie. So that's the end of that. Once I've uploaded, which takes a period of time, I'll then publish that video, this video that I'm going to do now. Obviously, I will actually have to end the show properly to do that. And that's how you get your members only video. I'll send out a little YouTube equivalent of a tweet so that you get that. And that's how you get your members only shows. So that's pretty much it. Another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who have joined as an Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and supported me by hitting the PayPal link, hitting the crypto link, all of that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.